Hello, folks. Hello, folks. It's your buddy Mike Messier. Mike's here to discuss Backlash 2025. My broadcast partner Gonzo shall be joining us in about 10 minutes, and we'll discuss the wonderful pay per view. And there's a couple of notes that I wanted to make note of, so to speak. In the pre show of this show, I thought that the young lady, I believe her name is Redmond. Is it Jackie Redmond or Jackie Richmond? I think she's pretty good actually. I don't know if other people have noted that before, but they have a revolving door for some of these talking head types, especially the young women, the females. I know was it Renee Young was a big deal 10, 15 years ago. Of course, she and her husband John Moxley and are still in AEW at this point. But Jackie Redmond on the pre-show, if you've seen her, she's the brunette, and I think she does a good job. So, I mean, God, this fucking computer. So whether she's legitimately a wrestling fan or she's just become one because of her gig here with the WWE, I have been impressed with Jackie Redmond. Also, tonight, I did want to discuss some of these layoffs, these WWE layoffs 2025. I just want to make sure Braun Strowman was a big one in there. And I just wanted to talk about some of the people that got laid off, basically. So if you happen to be catching this live, this is May 10th, 2025. We're here to discuss Backlash. And, for the bullet points, probably the biggest thing tonight, it's one of those nights where the matches were quite good, I thought. There's no title changes. And as far as storyline stuff, I don't think, unless I'm forgetting something off the top of my head, there wasn't tremendously anything that changed, with the exception perhaps of the first match where Jeff Cobb came in to run interference. Jeff Cobb is one of those guys that if you've been a non-WWE fan or a fan of WWE plus other promotions, you've heard of Jeff Cobb. You've perhaps seen Jeff Cobb in action. And he's another one of these big Samoan bulldozer types that can move. And I thought it was pretty interesting that he helped his buddy there, or we would think it's his buddy, to win the match. Meaning Jacob Fatu, but Jacob Fatu didn't seem to be happy about it. If you happen to be tuning in, folks, let me know if the audio is okay. I can never really judge for myself if the audio is okay because I'm the one speaking, but hopefully you can judge for me. So title retentions, even Michael Cole made note of it, that there was 3 title retentions, meaning champions successfully held onto their belts. 3 of those going into the main event of John Cena versus Randy Orton, and 4 coming out. So also the pay-per-view ended at a pretty reasonable hour, 9:45 p.m., which I don't know if it's a tip of the hat to the UFC, WWE's cousin now, or sister promotion, whatever you want to call it. But of course, UFC does have a big pay-per-view tonight, and in a parallel universe, I'd be in a movie theater about to watch that show, but I decided to come here and spend the evening with you and Gonzo and discuss this show whenever the Gonzo man gets here. He's been walking his dog. So for all the dog walkers out there, all the dog enthusiasts, we'll say thank you, buddy, for walking your animal and not having him make a big mess on the living room floor. Let me look at WWE, firings, future endeavorings, whatever you want to call it. Braun Strowman, I guess he's the one that comes to mind. Shayna Baszler. Here's a thing: WWE, every wrestler released in 2025. Let's see. This is courtesy of whatculture.com. Some interesting stuff with What Culture. If you find folks, if you're familiar, that's one of these YouTube channels. But I guess they've had quite a history themselves of running promotions, having some scandals, all types of wonderful and not so wonderful things. Here we go. Duke Hudson, while news of his release didn't surface until February. February is always a tough month to pronounce. Duke Hudson was quietly released by WWE back in January. So Duke Hudson is a bearded fellow. I've actually seen this guy wrestle many times on the NXT house show circuit in Florida. Chase University. Interesting group. He was kind of the big man of the group. The guy that's the small man, and for a long time, as you may or may not know, I've gone to more NXT house shows than I've actually sat there and watched the television program. I'm probably the 0.0001 percentile that's true with wrestling fans, but it's so skit oriented, the NXT TV show, but I do find that I enjoy the house shows. So in any regard, Duke Hudson and his whole Chase U, they were always a big part of those NXT house shows with the little blonde girl and the guy that was kind of the professor of the group. And Duke Hudson seemed to be the heater or the big man of the group, and he's gone. So with that, his 35-year-old Australian had been with the WWE since 2019, operating under the Hudson moniker and also his real name of Brendan Vink. Interesting. He made a few fleeting appearances on the main roster, tagging with TMDK man Shane Thorne, and later returned to NXT with a gambler gimmick. So the Powerhouse's greatest success came with Chase University, and they won the NXT Tag Team Championship. So, what does this say to me? It basically just says that the Chase University contingent won't be going to the main roster, at least not in their current or their recent current group, setup. So too bad for him. Paul Ellering was let go. Paul's got to be 65 or maybe even 70 years old. I think it's just one of those things where, how much can you do with Paul Ellering? He's kind of there almost as a Legends rub. He was working with the Authors of Pain, Karrion Kross and Scarlett. They formed the Final Testament. No offense, but I mean, Final Testament, even the name sounds very similar to the Judgment Day. So it's kind of like, do you really need both? And these groups that kind of come and go, they always seem like they're trying to hit lightning in a group like the NWO or the Four Horsemen, something like that. Precious Paul, of course, was the manager of one of the earliest wrestling contingencies back in the 80s, 1983, I believe, or 84. The Legion of Doom, back when it included Jake the Snake Roberts and the Spoiler, the original Spoiler that The Undertaker took a lot of his stuff from, and the Road Warriors. And Precious Paul, he's been around the game. I mean, he's had decades where he's been away from wrestling and then come back, and they've put him into stuff. And here he is, and here he was. To give Paul Ellering a lot of credit, he's outlived Hawk and Animal. Not that it was a competition, but he's outlived his team. What was it, the Iditarod, when you race the dogs? So, Paul Ellering's an interesting guy. So the other two guys, the team that he was managing, or one of them, the Authors of Pain, and I want to know if they write fiction or nonfiction, the Authors of Pain. And are their books available on Audible, on audiobook? Can I buy their books on audiobook like you can buy my novel, Fight or Play Basketball, on audiobook? So I don't know if the Authors of Pain have a printed copy of their wonderful books. Because they're Authors of Pain, apparently. But I have a wonderful book that you can purchase like mine, like Messier's book, wonderful book, Fight or Play Basketball. So in any regard, the Authors of Pain are gone. For the viewer that just checked in, let me know if you have comments. Yes, we are live, but we will be talking about Backlash. And right now I'm just covering the recent WWE releases. If you have any comments or so, hello, Scorpions fan. This is my buddy, AJ. AJ, let me know if the audio is okay, buddy. Am I too soft? Am I too loud? So, AJ, I'm going to disagree. I don't think Backlash was horrible. I'm curious why you think it was horrible. I don't think it was bad. It didn't have, as far as I can tell, the big story of the night is I'm okay, buddy. I'm good. Thanks. I'm still alive. I'm pretty good. I just noticed that my nose looks like Rudolph tonight, and I do have this thing apparently with the sun here in Florida that makes my face kind of break out sometimes, and I have this medication, and of course I never take it, so I guess I'll have to start taking it again. This Vince booking. Okay, I think I see where you're going. It. I mean, are you discussing the main event? Are you discussing all the title retentions? It was definitely a night where titles were retained. There was, as far as I can remember, there was no title changes. I don't think there was any pre-show matches either. I was saying earlier that Jackie Redmond, I thought, did a nice job on the pre-show. So you're just gonna shit all over the whole pay-per-view. Interesting, because I will be completely transparent, as the kids say, not vulnerable, just transparent. I was getting my groceries. I was allowing the dog of the house to do his thing outside. And so I was basically using my phone apparatus to watch the first match, the four-way match for the U.S. title. But from what I saw of it, which was most of it, it seemed like it was making the house go crazy. The people in St. Louis, Jacob Fatu, Drew McIntyre, LA Knight seemed to be on point from what I saw. I didn't catch any major flubs in that match. Who was the fourth guy in that match? Damian Priest even seemed to be doing okay. They kind of eliminated Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre with a big bump through a table. And then what do we do from there? Then we had like the big reveal of another Samoan badass, which I think is the big story of the night. I mean, maybe it's not that big of a story for you, but Jeff Cobb, another one of these indie darlings with a big reputation and a lot of success on the independents or the non-WWE, non-AEW world. And here he is in WWE. And from what we can tell, he's jumping the line, not doing the NXT thing, going right to the main roster, unless they just introduced him here and now they're going to put him back in NXT. Who knows? R-Truth, is he going heel now because nobody cares for him? I bet Cena beats him up. And I think that's a good prediction. AJ, I think you're probably right on target. I think they could easily do something either this coming Monday night or whenever John Cena next appears, whether it's 9 days from now or I guess it would be 16 days from now. But I could definitely see them doing something where Ron, the Truth Killings, R-Truth expects some type of pat on the back from John Cena. Instead, he just gets an AA. They did have a match, though. I mean, it's going back to maybe 2010, 2009. When was that pay-per-view? It was in December of whatever year it was, I believe. And I think first they did The Rock and John Cena as a tag team against Ms. Truth, like the Miz and R-Truth. And then it was either the month before or the month after that, John Cena defended the title against R-Truth in a singles match, I believe, in Washington, D.C. Capital Punishment. Exactly, buddy. So not to be confused with the Capital Combat 1990 pay-per-view, which was in the D.C. area, and that was it called, the DC Complex or something? But it was Doom beat the Steiners that night, and the Midnight Express beat Pillman and Zank for the U.S. titles, and Luger and Flair had that giant Thunderdome cage, a cage match that actually ended in a disqualification. So that was Capital Combat 90. Capital Punishment, I don't think I've ever sat through that pay-per-view, but yes, I do remember that was Cena beating R-Truth, and there was a lot of guys. I mean, Cena still has this 17 title runs, title victories, but it's like there's a few guys I think he could have lost the title to, namely Mark Henry, R-Truth, and also a guy that was commentating tonight, which I was hoping, when I'll get into this later, but Wade Barrett, I thought he could have gotten into there. I believe my buddy Gonzo has checked in. Hey, Gonzo, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, bro. How you doing?
Good. He comes in with a puff of smoke like an entrance. So let me have your overall thoughts. We have a mixed vote so far. I actually thought the pay-per-view was good for what it was. Our buddy AJ, longtime Mike Messier buddy, does not think it was a good show. So where does Gonzo come in on this?
I think it was not that great of a show, but like kind of what you said, for what it was okay. Because I felt like some of the stuff on it it was decent enough, but then some of the other stuff on it, I was like, the main event, I didn't think it was that great.
Why don't we start from the top like we did with our WrestleMania
yeah.
show? I
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like doing that. I like doing just the match by match. Then we kind of build through it. So the first match, I was saying that this was the story of the night, Gonzo. As far as, I mean, one thing I will say about this show, as far as if you're looking for storyline development or what happens next or stories getting changed or progressed, I don't think there was much of that, except to say that in this U.S. title retention from Jacob Fatu, what's his nickname? The Samoan assassin or the
Werewolf.
Samoan werewolf? Yeah, that's pretty good. I was thinking back to what was the guy's name? Enzo,
Oh,
Samoan bulldozer. That was what's his name? Enko, the
oh,
Umaga.
Umaga.
Yeah, I was thinking of his real name was like Enki or something, but yeah, he was the Samoan bulldozer. Here we have the Samoan werewolf, which is a cool name. I guess you could kind of take any decent nickname and put Samoan in front of it, and it
And
sounds
yeah,
you know, the Samoan Mad Dog, the
yeah,
Samoan Gonzo, the Samoan AJ, whatever the fuck. So, but yeah, the Samoan werewolf, which actually does work for him because he kind of looks like a werewolf.
true.
And I thought this, I mean, look, I was saying that I was getting my groceries, I was letting the dog of the house do his thing, and I was watching on my phone trying to catch everything. It sounded to me like the crowd was into it. From the 60 or 70% of the match that I saw, I didn't see any flubs. I saw LA Knight bouncing off the ropes pretty good. I mean, he's an older guy. He's like 42 or 43, but he was doing some pretty good jumps off the rope. He looked pretty sharp. From what I could tell, Jacob Fatu is doing his thing, and Drew and Damian Priest kind of, double eliminated themselves by going through a table or something. I didn't really, I mean, it seemed to me like a pretty hot open, and kind of like with a lot of these fatal four-way matches, it's either like the champion's going to, I guess like any match, the champion's going to retain the title or he's going to lose it. But in this scenario, the big reveal was this new member of the team, so to speak. This, what's our buddy's name there? I just said
Cobb.
Jeff Cobb. So Jeff Cobb, this independent darling that's been around for a while. I mean, he's not a young guy, but he's new to the WWE audience. And if they are main rostering him without NXT and just putting him in the mix with like the kind of alternate universe tribe or Samoan bloodline, like the bad half of the family tree,
Yeah,
what do you think of all this?
I liked it. That I did like, because I remember that guy from AEW. He was on there quite a few times, and he's like a tank. He kind of reminds me of Bronson Reed a little bit. Maybe he's a little bit smaller, but he kind of reminds me same type of build for like an actual wrestler or whatever. But I like that because I feel like maybe now they're going to actually start doing some storylines with the bad half of the bloodline or whatever, that are going to get pretty good. Maybe kind of like how the original one was with Sami Zayn. Like all that bloodline story was really good, and that went on for a long time. And it seems like some of the stuff that I've seen over the past couple weeks or past couple months, they like plant little seeds. Like is Jacob Fatu and Solo gonna get into it, or are they gonna like break or whatever? So adding this new guy, feel like it opens up a lot of possibilities now.
Did it kind of seem like a little like, because it seemed like the bulldozer wasn't too happy to have Jeff Cobb's assistance, and he was kind of eyeing him over and stuff, and it looked
Right.
like Samoa Solo was kind of saying, no, he's with us, and be grateful, and this is part of my plan. Like, although Jacob Fatu is the U.S. champion, it seems like Solo's saying, I'm still head of this group. And what I thought was kind of funny was that, to me, like, Jacob Fatu is kind of the heater or the enforcer of this alternate universe bloodline, like the bad bloodline guys. But now we've got another guy who's like the enforcer has an enforcer, the heater has a heater with Jeff
Right.
Cobb. So I thought that was, and I guess Solo is kind of supposed, he was once just a heater. So it seems like these guys just get, it's like one of those Russian dolls that you open up and there's another one.
Yeah.
Like, so I thought it was, I guess I thought it was a good enough little Easter egg or a little surprise I mean, as far as I know, I mean, there might have been some talk online about this guy coming in or whatever. I
I
guess.
I heard something like within the last 2 weeks about him possibly coming in, but I'll tell you what, I didn't think it was going to be like this. I thought it was going to be NXT.
Yeah, and
You
that's
know,
one thing
that's
that I thought was interesting. Like, and also the tag team guys in the Samoan bloodline, they kind of jumped the fence too, or they jumped the line. So there is no clear indication really of which wrestlers, like an AJ Styles doesn't do NXT. A couple of years ago, Mike Bennett or Mike Kanellis and Maria Kanellis, they didn't do NXT at first. They probably should have. So, do you have any thoughts on that? Like, who goes to the main roster and who goes to NXT when they come in?
I don't. It seems like if they think the person's a big enough star already, then they'll bring him in without putting him through NXT. Like I could see somebody like the Joe Hendry guy not going if he comes over, him not going to NXT because he's already made a couple of appearances on regular shows like WrestleMania. I think he was on the Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it seems like because sometimes the weird part about it too is those sometimes guys that you would think that they would just bring right in, they end up putting them in NXT. Like
right.
I felt like Ricky Starks could have went right in,
Okay.
and they put him in NXT.
I thought, and I think that's. I mean, I guess you'd have to ask Triple H, or you'd have to ask somebody, Finley, or and probably who you ask is probably going to give you a different answer. But I think that's one of the issues of an identity thing, or what purpose does NXT serve? And it seems like that purpose fluctuates or depends on who you ask and when you ask, because I think in Triple H's mind, at least at certain times, it was supposed to be a third brand unto itself with
Right.
different music, a different look, maybe smaller venues, pay-per-views, or premium live events, uh, network specials that were 5 or 6 matches instead of 10 or 12. There was a whole aesthetic that was different with NXT for a long time, and it seemed to be initially like this is a training ground for the stars of tomorrow, and then Triple H seemed to really want to try and put his mark on it, his stamp on it, and have it be almost a competitor to the main roster. And Gonzo, I remember maybe 2015 through 2019 or so. Some of my good wrestling friends were always telling me that they were watching more NXT than main roster, and I was kind of a holdout because I was like, if the main roster is not good, if Raw and SmackDown are not good, then why should I get emotionally invested into these NXT people for them to just get fed into the main roster and look like chumps? And none of my friends had an answer for that. So, you know,
It's a good question. No, it's a good question. It's a good
yeah.
question.
What was that? Was it not the Acclaim? There was a tag team. They kind of looked like Road Warriors from Temu.
Oh,
Uh,
I know who it is. The
Ascension.
Ascension.
Yes. So the Ascension apparently were really good wrestlers on NXT, and it's kind of like what makes a really good wrestler. Well, if you book them to win, then they're a really good wrestler, right? But
Hmm.
supposedly Vince didn't see them that way, and I think JBL recently talked about it on a podcast where JBL was apparently burying the Ascension on commentary on Raw, saying how much they stunk and they were Road Warrior ripoffs. And according to JBL, the whole idea was that they were going to have the Ascension lose a couple of matches on Raw, but then they were going to like turn it around and start winning and basically stick it up JBL's mouth, and but the problem is they never had them start winning. So, so JBL's burying these guys, according to JBL, because he thinks that this is going to help them get over in the long run. Once they start winning, they're going to cram it down his ass. But instead, they just kept booking the guys to keep losing. So I don't know. Let's see what Jay has to say, or AJ has to say about Jey Uso. Jay will lose championship to Seth Rollins at SummerSlam, and feel Braun will win Intercontinental Championships again. To third guy will be Drew McIntyre, which actually I think AJ that's a really good idea. I do think that Drew McIntyre, I mean, why not put him with Seth Rollins and uh, Braun, Braun Breaker, Seth Rollins, and Drew McIntyre with Paul Heyman. I like that. What do you think, Gonzo?
I mean, I like it. I would be good with it. You know, that whole thing kind of caught me up by surprise, to be honest with you. I didn't think the Seth Rollins part. I felt like that was coming. I felt
Yeah,
like Paul Heyman was probably going to go with him, but Braun Breaker coming in with them, that I didn't see. So when that happened, I was like, wow, that really surprised me. Um, and I think with Paul Heyman, dude, the sky's the limit in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? A lot of people complain and say like, he's repetitive and he cuts the same promo and this and that, but he's a really good actor, man. He's a really good actor. So like when he gets the storyline juices going and like all that bloodline stuff that he did,
yeah.
like Paul Heyman is convincing. He's convincing. So I think that those three together, and if they added Drew McIntyre to it, that'd be sick. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
then you have a real force with those three guys.
I think yeah, and I think it also you have a real force, and then whenever it's time to break them up, you have Drew versus Braun Breaker. You have Drew versus Seth. And I hope they don't rush that. I don't think you put them together just to break them apart 6 months later, because we've seen enough of that type of stuff. But if you had them together for a year or two, I kind of feel also that type of group. If those are three singles guys, I think you could still add a real solid tag team in there. I thought for a moment the FTR might be coming back to WWE, but I think I'm just imagining that. That doesn't look like that's happening. But
That would be good though, because they're good.
oh
I
yeah,
like them.
and they seem like Paul Heyman type of guys.
Let me
Was
ask you
there?
this.
Sure, go ahead.
So we're talking about Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins, right?
Yeah.
And this guy said, uh, Drew McIntyre might be the third man. Let me ask you this: what if the third man was Brock Lesnar? What would you think of that?
Oh boy, yeah. Then you have two killers. Then you have Braun Breaker and Brock Lesnar. And then the question, buddy, is once again, you don't want to jump the shark, so to speak, and say, okay, let's put these guys together just so we can split them apart. But at the same time, if you have Braun Breaker and Brock Lesnar in the same stable, eventually you're going to want to see that match. So,
True.
but
That's true too.
I do like that because it's kind of like the older badass and the younger badass.
Well, and
Um,
to me, it just seems like logically, like if Paul Heyman, if they started presenting it in a way where Paul Heyman's saying, "I'm going to bring in a third guy," is Paul Heyman already saying he's going to bring in a third guy, like him specifically, or no?
I don't think I heard him say that, but I could be missing.
Okay, okay. I'm just wondering, but if they presented it in a way where Paul Heyman is kind of like, now he doesn't even have to say it, but just through different things insinuate a third guy's coming or whatever, and it's Paul Heyman. If it was Lesnar, that would be crazy because it would just logically it would make sense because he was with Paul Heyman for so long and he's been MIA, and Paul Heyman that was his boy for all those years. So I feel like that, like logically, that could make a lot of sense. And especially if they did it in a way where somehow that Rollins and or Breaker, probably just one of them needed help in some way, and the third man came and it was Brock Lesnar. That would be pretty crazy.
I like it. I would say I like that group. I mean, whether it's Brock or Drew or even both, but I feel like to me, and maybe I'm thinking like Paul Heyman's Dangerous Alliance way back when in the '90s.
Yeah,
To me, I like if it's going to be it feels like Seth and Braun. It's like the good beginnings of something, but not the full thing. And I think a nice tag team, or even well, let's say this. Let's talk about men's tag team first. Who could be a good men's tag team to go along with this? And AJ, chime in on this. Who would be a good men's tag team to go with Braun, Heyman, and Seth? Could it be an
Rusev
NXT
lost.
call up? AJ was just mentioning Obafemi. Is there any tag team specific? I mean, Otis. I mean, could you repackage Otis again? I think we were talking about it last time that Otis just seems to be a guy that they could have done so much. I think I like Otis more as a babyface. What about
Yeah,
the returning
yeah.
Rusev? Does Rusev have a spot with these guys, or is that too soon?
I mean, no, that could work, but who would be the partner is the question. Who would that fourth guy be that you would bring in that would be with Rusev in a tag team?
Yeah, because it's
can't be Sheamus. Can't be Sheamus.
He's too old.
Yep, can't be Sheamus.
What about the General, the Ring General? Does he have a spot with these guys, or is it a thing like this? If it's too many big personalities, is it more is less? Like if you have a Seth Rollins and a Gunther in the same stable, does that take too much shine off of one or the other for them to be together?
Right. See, and I'll tell you, like, somebody that I would welcome, like I would be very down with it because they're not doing enough with him is Karrion Kross.
There
If
you go.
somehow he got involved in all this stuff because they're not doing enough with him. And like that guy should be in the main events with Seth and Drew and all those guys. Like he should be right up there with them.
Did you see my Karrion Kross artwork inspired by his documentary last weekend?
No, I didn't.
Well, Karrion's Instagram account gave it a big thumbs up. You hold right there, Gonzo. Keep talking while I find it.
Yeah. Did you watch the documentary?
I did, and I was inspired to put my art into play, and I have it right here. Luckily, I did enjoy it. It did give me Pillman Senior type of. I think Pillman Senior, Brian Pillman Senior, if he were alive, that's the type of thing he would be doing.
Right. Oh, what? Damn, that came out sick.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, I like that. Hell yeah.
So when I was still making it, when I was watching the doc, I took a photograph of it in black when it wasn't colored in yet. It was black and white.
Right.
And I had Karrion Kross in the background on my TV in the doc itself. And I took like one of those pictures that's like a 10-second video, like a live photo.
Right.
And it captured like Karrion Kross saying something as I caught him in the background and then the photo in the foreground. And then I put that up on the old Instagram, and the Karrion Kross Instagram account did a reply with the clapping hands.
Nice, dude.
So then I made like a video remix of like the final product and everything, and I used Scarlett Bordeaux, like the theme song that he had in NXT, and I was hoping he would see the finished product and then share it on his Instagram account, but of course he didn't. Right. So at any event, Hank and Tank, I can't get into them. I've seen those guys in NXT shows. Here's a good question. We can take some of these random questions or comments from AJ. He's got some good shit for us tonight. Mikey, do you want to see Velveteen Dream rehired in WWE? He's been begging to come back. I think it was just yesterday, AJ. I guess it was about a 1-minute video from from Patrick Clark, the former Velveteen Dream. He's sitting on a picnic bench, and he's basically blaming the fans for getting him fired. And then he's saying that he's going to ruin pro wrestling and end pro wrestling. So it's basically like he wasn't doing the apology video, like I'm sorry I'm a creep, or I'm sorry I got caught up in this or whatever, or he's not doing the I was misunderstood and I'm innocent. Like he wasn't doing that. He was blaming like the internet wrestling world for getting him fired several years ago. And then he was threatening to end pro wrestling. And I think he might have even said wrestling's fake in the promo. And
really,
but it was so directionless, or it had so many different directions in one little video that it really just it doesn't seem like it's going to help him get work with anybody. And it's not going to appeal to any type of fan base like, oh, we love this guy so much we need to hire him back, or you need to hire him back, or the flip side, this guy is so controversial that some independent promoter is going to bring him in just as a hot shot. It just seemed lame. And
didn't he get fired for SA?
yeah, there was accusations of that, and there was accusations of some pretty nasty stuff. And I read the whole rap sheet thing. Like Patrick Clark had his video out there, the former Velveteen Dream, and somebody commented, "Yeah, you guys stink. You got him fired." And then one of the wrestling websites, Wrestle Report or something, chimed in. Are you sure about that? And they linked to one of their own articles about his history, controversial history of stuff. And I think it can be said that, okay, maybe the guy didn't serve 5 years in jail for anything, but kind of like a Joey Ryan here, there's enough smoke where
I was just going to say bring back Joey Ryan and a tag team with him. I was just going to say that literally right before you said Joey Ryan.
Yeah. And it's like this. I used to get into Twitter wars with Joey Ryan about his fucking routine,
Oh,
and
my God.
Those to me were some dark days for pro wrestling, like the 2015.
The finger in the butt.
Yeah, the thumb in the ass spot. And
yeah.
I spoke out. There's a whole Reddit thread of me. They don't have my original post, but they have the response from what's the guy? Chris Hero.
Mm-hmm.
What was his NXT name? You have the K.
What the hell was it?
Began with a K or something.
Yeah, it did. And I can't remember what it was though.
Yeah, but basically me and him going back and forth on about the thumb in the ass spot. Okay, here's a good segue. I guess we're jumping around. We're not going match by match for right now, which is fine because I'm sure everybody's doing that. And maybe to the point, some of these matches there was no title changes, and so here's my thing. And I've been thinking about this, Gonzo. And as we were talking about the Seth Rollins, Heyman, Braun Breaker group, and when I said I kind of tipped my hat a little bit. I said, well, what about a men's tag team first? Well, here's an idea. How about a women's tag team in the Heyman group of Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair?
That would be better than what they're doing now by a lot.
Does it seem to me, or does it seem to you? It seems to me. Does it seem to you that Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch are doing the exact same angle, the exact same character at the exact same time?
They are.
Yeah.
They are. And the thing is, it feels like something that they've kind of, at least for Charlotte, for sure, it feels like something she's already done like 5 times over the last 12, 13 years or whatever.
Yeah, she's done it with Rhea at least twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because with her, they've like 2 different times now, they've tried to like present her babyface,
right,
and the fans just reject it every time. Like they cannot turn her babyface. The fans just reject it every single time. And she's a better heel anyway, though. It's like, why would you even try to make her a babyface? Like, unless you have some type of a crazy story that, gets sympathy on her through a crazy story, okay. But otherwise, like, she seems like she just can't be a babyface.
Lacey Evans, believe it or not, is coming to mind when there was a thing briefly. Lacey Evans was campaigning for a feud against Charlotte. I think it was a month or so after WrestleMania one year, maybe 2018, 2017. And Lacey brought in Ric Flair as her corner man.
I remember that.
Then in real life, Lacey got pregnant. And here's a thing where I wish they kind of had an Attitude Era mindset, a Vince Russo mindset. Okay, Lacey's pregnant. She can't wrestle for at least 9 months, maybe 2 more, maybe. But if you wanted to really milk that storyline, or at least plant the seeds and come back to it, why not just say that Ric Flair was the fucking father of this kid? and
Did
even
they
if
did they not allude to that at all? Did they
they
allude to, I thought they did, right?
well, I think it was a time where so much stuff was out in the open, like, oh, Lacey Evans is really married in real life, and it's just there was so much
Right.
interaction between like the website breaking kayfabe, and they weren't really doing any kayfabe basically. So
Right.
they were one step away from saying, "Hey, folks, we're going to have a fixed wrestling match tonight, but we hope you enjoy it." So I mean, I think it was also like the PG era, which apparently we're still in. They didn't want to actually go there and say that Rick might be the father, and I think Rick might have, gone into business for himself, you know, kind of throwing that out there just a little bit, but the commentators made it very clear that Rick was not the father, that Lacey had a guy,
And it's the most obvious storyline. It's like you're getting an 80-mile-an-hour ball right down the middle.
right.
That like you could see, you got it in slow motion. You could see it. I mean, it's the most obvious thing to do. I don't know why they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine the hilarity that would ensue if you had like little segments of, 70-year-old Ric Flair taking, 30-year-old Lacey Evans to
Right.
the hospital, or
Right.
pregnancy Lamaze class and all this stuff.
And the thing is that right there, that could have turned Charlotte babyface. You could have
Yeah,
probably got sympathy on her through that.
right. So here's my thought. And I could take it a step further, but for now, let's just say the queens of wrestling, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair, the bitter bitches, like the women, and they're, the Sex and the City girls. They're 35, they have kids, they set the path, and they're pissed off about it. Like they're 15 years from menopause, but they're already angry. I mean, like there's a lot of
Right.
stuff
Right.
where, and these two women paved the way with each other's blood. They set the tone for wrestling by beating the crap out of each other and blah blah blah. And I just think it kind of writes itself. And then on top of that, if Charlotte and Becky were to continue as a team for a while, you could also throw Bailey in the mix with them. And you could have like the old, spinsters, freebirds. Like these are the three women, who were part of and here's the trick. You never have them allude to the four horsewomen, or whatever they call
Yeah.
themselves, right?
Yeah. Right.
And eventually, whenever Mercedes Monet's contract runs up, and if she negotiates, and I'm not sure, but I'm guessing whenever Mercedes' contract runs up with AEW, unless they really roll out the red carpet as far as money, which they might, I could see Mercedes coming right back to WWE, and they just start fresh with her and they give her a great run. And I could see them doing a thing where Bailey, Sasha, Charlotte, and Becky are the four horsewomen, and they're all heels, and they're all the, elders that are trying to keep the young gals from coming up. And you could stretch that over 4 or 5 years if you wanted to.
Yeah. No. That would be. Yeah. That would be a very good. They could do a lot with that. They could do a lot with that.
Yeah.
And it's a throwback because they were talking about that 10, 11 years ago, whatever, about being the four horsewomen of NXT. Right. That's where it came from. NXT. Right.
Right, it did. And there was another four horsewomen of MMA, which was like Shayna Baszler, or
Ronda.
Rhea.
Yeah.
It wasn't Rhea Ripley. It was Ronda Rousey, Shayna, and I think they had two others that eventually came into NXT as a tag team. And
Oh,
I
right. Right.
I can't remember if those two ladies are around or not anymore, to tell you the truth.
No, neither can I.
But they were trying. There was always these festerings of Ronda's four horsewomen against the WWE NXT four horsewomen. I'm not going to say Charlotte's four horsewomen, but basically they were always kind of set that up. And I think I could be wrong, but I have this vague memory of them doing some type of backstage thing at an NXT thing with Ronda's group and Charlotte's group squaring off. But I don't think it got physical. I just think it got to be a talking point. In the meantime, I'm not trying to lose the 2 viewers that we have here, but at the WWE
Right.
post conference, I just saw in the background, John Cena was talking. R-Truth came out to like congratulate Cena, and then John Cena gave Ron Truth an AA through the fucking press table.
No.
So now
No.
they're scraping up fucking R-Truth from the press table. So they're pushing this thing, and I think give credit to AJ here on the viewership here because he was mentioning R-Truth, and I think I chimed in before you came in here, Gonzo, and I said, well, maybe Monday night or a week from Monday night they can do a thing where R-Truth is trying to celebrate with Cena and Cena beats him up, and maybe not a premium live event, but maybe just a Saturday night's main event or a Monday Night Raw. They could have Cena versus R-Truth.
Yeah, I mean that it can't be a straight up match. That like it can't be like a competitive back and forth match though. If it turned out to be that, I would not. I don't think that would be very good. I don't know. It seems like R-Truth isn't even like he's not even really worthy of having the match. He probably hasn't won a match in like 3 years.
Well, Cena hadn't won a match in like 5 years, and then he won the fucking title.
Okay, yeah, you got a point, and he probably wrestled about as much as R-Truth has. So, I mean,
What's
you do
the
have
guy?
a point there.
Yeah. Give me 1 second, buddy. Keep talking.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I could see it. I think it's probably going that way though. That it's going to be a match between them two.
R-Truth, I mean, just to go on a little tangent, R-Truth is one of those guys that, yes, he's had a great career. I mean, I mean, he's probably a guy they would put in the WWE Hall of Fame just because of longevity, if nothing else. But if you ever saw his work, and this is why there always needs to be more promotions than just WWE. For all the WWE hardcore people, you always need a choice or an alternate wrestling program, right? Because if you saw Ron the Truth Killings in 2002 in TNA, and the tapes are still out there, you can still see this stuff, but when he was doing kind of like, you're all a bunch of racist crackers and I'm going to win the NWA world title, and he's fighting like Ken Shamrock and Jeff Jarrett, and I mean, Ron the Truth, and I don't know why, because he had been in the WWE before that with the Road Dogg, and that was kind of like, even his beginnings was kind of weird. Like he was just kind of thrown into the mix with Road Dogg and R-Truth were this tag team. I think they called him K-Quick at the time.
I was just going to ask you that. Yeah, when he was with Road Dogg, he was called K-Quick.
Right. And I just think it was a deal where, and I remember watching them, and I mean, he was certainly jacked up, but it was just like you didn't really know what to make of this guy because they kind of just threw him in the mix, you know?
Right.
And then he goes over to Jeff Jarrett's group and he becomes like a top heel and he's winning a fucking title. And I guess technically he was the first NWA world champion that was black, you know, because Ron Simmons was WCW, not NWA. And his heel work there was very edgy and very good. Ron the Truth Killings. And then he comes back, you know.
I'd like to see some of that old TNA stuff.
It's available. I mean, I bought on it was kind of a bootlegger guy, but I bought like the first year of TNA weekly shows on like a Blu-ray disc set, and it's good. I mean, it's it did seem, it kind of is like if you took some of the remaining elements of WCW, a sprinkling of elements from ECW, and then kind of like a throwback to old Memphis wrestling and just some other crazy stuff, because like the different influences you could see probably, and Jeff Jarrett has done a really good job with Conrad Thompson about talking about this stuff on his podcast. But it's interesting to see those first couple of years, the asylum years, as they call them, from it was NWA TNA at the time, or I think that's what TNA NWA or NWA TNA.
Yeah.
It was fun, and it was a little crazy, and I remember at the time, like most people, had cable, regular cable television. There was no streaming yet, but they did not have the weekly shows available for me for my cable system. The only thing they had available, they had a 1 cent show where they charged 1 cent for like a 2 hour best of TNA pay per view,
Oh,
which
what?
I ordered. Yeah, they called it the 1 cent show because they just wanted to put it out there. So all you had to do is you pay 1 cent and you saw like this 2 hour pay per view. It wasn't live. It was like pre-taped best of matches of their, and this was like 5 or 6 months into their journey, right?
Did they
And
have the six-sided ring at that time?
they no, the six-sided, that's a
No.
good question too. The six-sided ring came, I think, 2 years into the promotion. So
Okay.
there, the Asylum years had the traditional ring, and I think it was 2005, I want to say, when they got a weekly TV deal with Spike. And
Hmm.
that's when Jeff Jarrett was like, okay, we're going to be on weekly television. And this is something I've seen in Mexico. And I want, when people are flipping the channels, that I want them to see a six-sided ring and say, what the heck is that? And then go back to it. And then Jarrett
Right.
also explained that when talking to toy distributors, that they can say, well, why should we give this other wrestling company, this non-WWE wrestling company, any shelf space? And the answer would be because we have this toy that's a six-sided ring that the WWE is not selling. So we have something you can sell that they don't have.
Right. Okay. Right.
So
Makes
Jeff is
sense.
a smart guy. But yeah, the
Oh,
TNA,
definitely. Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, that, getting back to Ron Truth killings or K Quick or and I mean, a friend of mine, my buddy Morrow in New England, is a big R Truth fan. I'm kind of a fan of what he could have been. I'm a fan of what he should have been.
Right.
I'm
Right.
not. I'm not a fan of the little Jimmy. Um, I don't want. What's the term? Minstrel act. I mean, I guess I don't want to say that, but I just did. I'm not a fan of the shucking and jiving bullshit Ron Truth version of this character. I'm a fan of the 2002 badass guy that he used to be in TNA.
Yeah. I think that from what I remember, because I did see a little bit of his TNA stuff, very, very little before. But I remember him from WWE when he first came too. And definitely, like you said, he could have been something probably really special, but for some odd reason, he just turned into this, sideshow comedy act type of thing, which is like more condensed to that now than it's ever been because that's all he does now. It's just like these weird little side quests, comedy side quests.
Yeah, and he's like 53 or 54. So
Right, right.
to his credit, he's still moving around and he still
Oh,
looks
it's
great.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
AJ says fired Shayna Baszler. Now they want to bring Ronda Rousey back. Why? Shayna was great. Shayna was a great talent in WWE. It's a shame Shayna never got the championship, only tag or NXT championship.
Is
What do
there
you think?
rumors that is there rumors that Ronda's coming back or they're trying to get her
I
back? Is that a
I
real
saw it.
rumor?
I saw it. That's a rumor. Yeah, that's a definite
Wow.
rumor. It's not a definite
Wow.
fact, but it's a definite rumor.
Wow. Okay.
So, but what do you
I didn't
think?
hear that.
Rhonda's. Well, it's for. I mean, I guess it's two stories, but what do you think? Shayna, Rhonda. Shayna's gone. Rhonda might come back. What do you think of all that?
I'm not a big fan of Ronda, to be honest with you. I never thought she was that great in WWE. She to me she always felt like she was acting. She never ever ever once felt like legitimate to me in any way, which is kind of weird and ironic because in real life she was, a UFC champion, so she was legitimate in some way. But in there, man, I don't know. It felt like she was trying so hard to just act with everything.
Yeah.
And so I never really got into her. Like I was kind of disappointed in the way things ended up playing out with her, and um, I kind of already had a little bit of beef with her from her MMA career though, because she started getting just started being pretty fucked up to people, like the way that she was disrespecting her opponents and stuff in MMA, and then she ended up getting like knocked out 2 times in a row, and it humbled her. And then she went to WWE, and so I kind of already didn't like her from that other stuff. And then I felt like WWE didn't do anything to like help her in any way. The only one thing that I felt like worked out well with her was the first time she came in, and it was like her and The Rock, and with like had a stare down with Triple H, or a face off with Triple H and Stephanie. That was good. And then like her first match when they brought her in,
Yeah.
like I felt like that was good. But then I felt like after that, it kind of was just like a steady slope downhill. I mean, did you feel that with her at all, that it felt like she was acting too much or something?
I thought, to me, it's once again, Ronda was in that end of the Vince Road era, which was really pretty bad. And it seems like it was just
Right.
a week ago, but I mean, that was 2016, 17, 18, 19, like when Vince was holding on, to this company creatively. And it just, I mean, I was hearing reports that, oh yeah, remember that WrestleMania when Brock beat Roman, and they were in Florida, I think in Tampa, and the fans were like booing the whole match. That
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
that was the same pay-per-view, I believe, where Ronda teamed up with Kurt Angle to face Stephanie and Triple H. And basically, a friend of mine, kind of a smart mark wrestling fan, said that Vince is so out of it that Vince called an audible that he didn't want Roman beating Rock as planned because the fans were booing so much. He did the thing when they talked to the referee in the ear and they changed the result on the fly to have Brock beat Roman. Because if you look at it, Brock beats Roman clean in that match, kind of out of nowhere. Like, it's so non-climactic, and it's not one of those finishes where there's like 5 2.5 counts or whatever. It's just like, oh, here's a side suplex and Brock Lesnar pins Roman Reigns, because the crowd was booing the match. And Vince, even if he was crazy, kind of has a point. Like, if we're trying to anoint this guy, meaning Roman Reigns, as the top babyface, why would we do that if the crowd is booing the hell out of the match? So,
Right.
in any
Right.
regard, when you asked me about Ronda, to me, Ronda came in a really bad time. They brought her in as a babyface. They brought her in with the hot rod, Ronda Rousey stuff. I think Piper died somewhere in the mix, or he had already died right before she came in.
Yeah.
I think if they had done something where, because Roddy had like kids that wrestled, like he had a son that wrestled, and even his daughter, that's not very big, she wrestled. If they had those kids come in and do some type of little ceremony or some type of little skit where they bequeathed like the Rowdy outfit and the kilt to Ronda, that could have helped her go babyface. Gee, I wish they would. I guess they could have hired Mike Messier to clean up this whole goddamn business. But, just there was so much they could have done, and they didn't. And also, I think, I could be wrong, but I believe, at least it seemed to be on television, that Ronda was pretty stiff, specifically with Alexa Bliss. And I could be wrong, but I think Alexa Bliss got a couple of concussions or shoulder injuries working with Ronda.
Oh, wow.
Because Ronda is used to fighting, and apparently that was tough for her to regulate herself. And I could be wrong, but I think Alexa Bliss got pretty hurt in the ring with Ronda. And I think some of the fans, the informed fans, so to speak, turned on her for that, because Alexa Bliss is so cute. So why would you want her to get hurt?
True.
Yeah, we covered this, AJ. We saw this. R-Truth got put through the table at the press conference. That was great. Gonzo, I want to get a beverage. If you can take this question, basically, AJ, our buddy here, is asking you about a female bloodline. So if you can talk on that for a few minutes while I get a beverage, that'll be good.
Yeah, I got you. Let me read this. I don't even know who Ava is. I'm wondering if that's The Rock's daughter. I'm not sure. Naomi and Nia Jax and Tamina. Yeah, wow, Tamina. Haven't heard that name in forever. They push it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like the whole women's division right now is kind of out of sync. Some people are getting hot, you know. The EO Sky seems to be getting pretty hot, and obviously, if people are behind Rhea Ripley and stuff. But I don't know. I think the whole women's division is kind of out of sync right now. There's something just off about it. Um, but I think that they could do some kind of. I mean, it could work. I don't know if Tamina would come back, but no, I mean it could work. And actually, I'm wondering how many of those ladies are related. I wonder. Tamina, I know is Jimmy Snuka's daughter, but I'm wondering, and Nia Jax is cousins with like The Rock or something. So I think they must be cousins because Tamina's cousin with The Rock, I believe. Um, I think I want to say Ava's Rock's daughter. I'm not sure. Uh, Naomi, yeah, throw her in there. I mean, I think that them trying to do anything that's a little bit out of the box, so to speak, which I feel like something like this is kind of out of the box. I feel like that would help with certain things, especially with the women's division right now, because um, I just feel like a lot of the women are just kind of out there in limbo, and even like the women that have kind of really put in the work and made a huge name for themselves or really built themselves up are kind of even lost in the shuffle a little bit. Like Liv Morgan, I feel like she's done so much work to build herself up, and she seems to be kind of lost in the shuffle right now. And it's kind of seems to be the same way with a lot of them, or they're not presenting them the right way. I think maybe like in the case of what we were just talking about with Charlotte Flair and Becky, like they don't seem to be presenting them in the right way where it's like catching on with the fans or getting over in any way. I think that, like, to go back to the pay-per-view tonight, the match with her and Valkyrie. I mean, I don't know what was that match really about. That's kind of like what I'm talking about just being in limbo. Like that whole thing came out of nowhere. Think about it. It's been less than a month since WrestleMania. And didn't Becky Lynch come out and help that girl at WrestleMania and then turned on her, and then now they're having a match? Isn't that what happened?
That's what happened, Gonzo. They
Yeah.
won the title. I mean, I thought. I mean, the storyline was spelled out though. It was supposed to be Bailey and Taylor Valkyrie against Liv and Raquel for the women's tag titles at WrestleMania. They did a segment where Bailey got injured.
Right.
It was either on night one of WrestleMania or the SmackDown before that. I can't remember which, or the pre-show or something. And then the commissioner guy, Adam Pearce, I think was the one that said, okay, well, he kind of said it right on the spot. Like Bailey is injured on the fucking concrete. And, Pierce is like, well, you can get yourself a substitute partner, like meanwhile, Bailey's fucking dying right on the ground. Right. So then they, have WrestleMania. I believe it was night 2. And I think it was the second to last match of the night before Cena and Cody. And, Taylor Valkyrie, the women's Intercontinental Champion, comes out, and then Becky Lynch comes out as her mystery partner. And they go out and they win the belts. And I think you and I kind of had a disagreement. I think I thought that match was better than what you thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next night on Raw, they promptly lose the titles right back in a next day rematch to Liv.
Oh, right. Right. I forgot that part.
And then after they lose, Becky beats the crap out of Taylor or Valkyrie, and we're off and running. And it's like another generational warfare thing. And that's why I was saying earlier about Charlotte and Becky are doing the exact same angle.
Right.
They're the old bitches who hate the young bitches. So
yeah,
why not put them together?
Right. No, I agree. Hey, I'm getting a drink real quick. I'll be right back.
All right.
My
AJ,
turn.
Yeah, there you go, buddy. AJ, if you have any comments during this Gonzo timeout, let me know. But as I was saying earlier, I do feel like Charlotte and Becky could be a tag team. They could be a two-woman power trip, kind of like Steve Austin and Triple H after, was that WrestleMania 19 or WrestleMania 18, I guess? Or no, WrestleMania 17, 2001. Wow, long time ago. But I think Becky and Charlotte could be a two-woman power trip, or they could be the female contingent, the female group within the group of Heyman and Seth and Braun Breaker and whoever else. So that's the fantasy booking for the night. Maybe we'll go back to these matches here, or I could go back to the other releases. I did listen to Shotzi Blackheart, is her name. She was on Dave LaGreca's show, Busted Open, and I've interviewed Dave LaGreca. He's a nice guy. So, Gonzo, I moved on to the topic going back to women that have been fired from the WWE or let go. And one of these young stallionettes, one of these young women wrestlers that was let go recently was Shotzi Blackheart. And if you remember, she had the green hair.
Yeah.
I want to say she's Polynesian or Hawaiian or something, as us white people would say exotic, but to them we're exotic, I suppose. But beautiful young woman. She had kind of a different, kind of like, a Suicide Girls type of thing, with the tattoos, right, green hair and stuff.
It's almost like a Ruby Riott.
Yeah. I mean, not to be a crass misogynistic wrestling fan, but I would, for my taste, even more attractive and even more exciting than Ruby Riott. Nothing against her.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
I remember going to an NXT house show years ago. This was the same night that Moxley beat Jericho for the AEW title, but I was at an NXT house show in Jacksonville. This was like the last weekend before pandemic era at all. Ooh. So nobody was wearing a mask. And me and my friend get to this NXT house show. We're just getting our bearings. And I see that there's two wrestlers that are kind of signing autographs. And it was Shotzi Blackheart and the guy that went to the main roster and did like the guitar gimmick. And then he hurt his leg at WrestleMania. He was
Rick
like
Boogs, man. I love Rick that guy.
Yeah, right. So it was Boogs and Shotzi, and I remember to look it over, and like maybe there was a few other wrestlers with them, but of all the wrestlers that were signing autographs, those two popped because it's like, oh, there's two stars, and I didn't even know who either one of them was, but I thought it was just obvious that both of them would become big, and I guess Boogs did for a cup of coffee, but he blew out his leg at WrestleMania, I believe, one year. And,
yeah, he did.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago?
Nah, I want to say that was maybe 4 years ago now.
Okay. And then Shotzi, I can't really say I watched a ton of Shotzi's stuff, but I know that she had a little tank. She had a different type of look. She had a different type of energy. To me, she kind of fits in with, I don't know if it's millennial or post-millennial, but of the young people today where, her look of not being cookie cutter Susie White Pants, I think that works for today. I think she's got a look that a lot of people can identify with the tattoos and the green hair and, just to be kind of blunt or whatever, but ethnically open diverse. To interpretation. Oh, yeah, ethnically diverse, but also like, anybody could see, not anybody, but a lot of people can see her and relate to her because it's like she's something, but she's not. She's kind of an enigma through the white guy lens, I guess. I don't know, but I mean,
she could have a huge teenage fan base.
Yeah, because it kind of what I guess I'm getting to is Tank Girl or Magna Comics. Like she seems very. At one point, like of the moment, like of this era, and then also like going back to Tank Girl, which is like 1992. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
right.
She seems like a Riot Girl that's kind of like from the early 90s, but also like half the girls
Totally
you see
modern.
now.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah.
the girls that I see that work at Starbucks now that are probably teenagers or in their 20s, 2/3 of them have a nose piercing or a tattoo or whatever. So
The thing with, like, I remember Shotzi from NXT, like seeing, because sometimes I'll watch like the NXT like PLEs or whatever. I've never really watched the weekly show, but I'll watch the PLEs every now and then. And I remember seeing her in NXT a couple different times, but then it seemed like when she came up to the main roster, I can't remember them ever doing anything with her. Besides, I remember one time she buzzed her hair off. That's the one thing that I remember about her from the main roster. But other than that, I can't remember them doing anything with her.
yeah. So what I heard tonight, um, before the backlash started, I hadn't listened to Busted Open in a long time. Dave LaGreca, Tommy Dreamer, Bubba Ray Dudley, sometimes I think Mark Henry's
Mark
on.
Henry.
Yeah. I hadn't listened to that show in a year. So I was like, for whatever reason, let me see how Dave's doing. So I put on Dave and I'm digging through a couple of episodes, and I saw that Shotzi did an episode recently, and it's like the big, headline is Shotzi's first interview since being released from WWE. And then there's Dave talking to her and another wrestler that I was like, who is this wrestler? And then I figured it out. It was Bishop something, who used to be, the guy on WWE for years, and Baron Corbin.
Oh, right. Okay.
So Baron Corbin is he has such a calm voice when he's not in character, and but they were having a pretty good talk about it, and I mean, I can't really argue with anything that Shotzi said. I mean, it sounded kind of like Wrestler 101, like the recently released WWE star who now is going to go on the indies and pull their greatest Cody Rhodes that they can, but at the same time is so grateful for the time they had in NXT, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, it was one of those?
Yeah, it was one of those things where, I mean,
but they just have to put the company over. They have to.
She's saying in both sides of her mouth how happy she is because now she can be unrestrained and she can be as creative as she wants to be, and she can wrestle all her old independent wrestling friends and this whole new generation of independent wrestlers, and she can see what's out there in the wild. But at the same time, her first year and a half in NXT was the greatest time of her life, and the women's dressing room is so supportive. And so my point is, like, the exception would be a Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, who goes on Jericho's show and just tears down Vince and the whole company. But at the same time, says, well, I found my wife over there, and, I did make a lot of money. But there's been so many other wrestlers who it seems like they do want to kind of have it both ways. They want to say how happy they are to be an independent and free and creative. But at the same time, they're not going to blow up that bridge, the WWE's money,
Right.
Which is fine. I mean, I can't.
Yeah, I mean, can't blame them.
Yeah, it just sounded like every other interview. But then at some point, they kept referring to this Shotzi Blackheart promo that apparently was so good. And I guess the promo was released 8 days, I believe, on Shotzi's own independent YouTube channel. And I went and dug it up and I watched it. And did you see it by any chance?
No.
Well, I guess it's one of those things where I've just seen so many good wrestling promos, and put this against, say, Stone Cold Steve Austin when he was in ECW for a couple of months, and he did those promos when he's talking about Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan. And
Right.
I mean, this Shotzi thing, it's more like it's an attempt at something like that, but it's just, I don't know. I mean, they thought it was the greatest thing ever, and they were giving her a lot of kudos and flowers, as the kids say. I didn't.
Ooh, Dave and Baron? Dave and Baron were?
Yeah, Baron and Dave, and they were both saying, like, hey, this was your best promo ever. And and like, even people in the comments on YouTube were like, normally I think, Shotzi's promos are cringe, but this one feels genuine. And I guess it was genuine, because basically she was saying, like, I haven't felt confident in myself because I've been injured and I used to be the ballsy badass and I haven't been that in a long time. And that ballsy badass girl that I once was, she's never coming back. But I have to evolve and be even a better ballsy badass. Like I guess if I had been more familiar with her work or with her story or her journey with injuries and everything, maybe I would have cared more. But it didn't rivet me, I guess, as much as these people were riveted by it.
How old is it?
It's 8 days old. It was recorded 8 days ago,
Oh,
and
okay, okay,
and they were
okay.
basically between Shotzi, Dave, and the former Baron Corbin. They were saying this was her. She knew that they were thinking of firing her because they had done a couple of false starts with her where she thought she was going to be at a big program on TV, and
Yeah.
they were like literally in rehearsals for like Raw and playing her music, and in the middle of it they stopped it.
Oh, what the
so
fuck?
so she's, I think she was saying that she thought she was going to have a big um angle with somebody like either Charlotte or somebody like that, and they were like promising her this big angle because I guess she just got back from an injury, and then they just basically ghosted her. So she's basically like, "Are you gonna fire me, or what the fuck's going on?"
Wow.
So she's
Wow.
she's basically like 8 days before, um, like 8 days ago. In this is May 10th, so I guess May 2nd or whatever. She's basically like, "I'm just gonna cut a fucking promo and try to get myself over, and maybe they won't fire me." So she
Wow.
does this promo in a garage, and there's like a green garage door background, and look, the promo is pretty good. I guess I've just seen a lot of really good promos, so I'm not terribly impressed. But I guess for today's standards, it's quite good, right? So she does this promo, and then she says, now on the Dave LaGreca show, and they're like, well, what was the reaction from the office when they saw the promo? Were they excited? Were they upset? Were they impressed? What were they? And she's like, no, like she's like, I got a bunch of texts from friends of mine in the company and behind the scenes people, and everybody was like super supportive and, hey, that was the best promo I've ever seen you do, and this is so awesome. I hope they do something with this. And then she's like, and then 2 days later they fired me.
Wow.
So it's like, well, there goes your promo. And then they were trying to like cross reference her with Karrion Cross, and basically like, I think it was even Bishop said, yeah, Karrion Cross is doing the same thing now. Like he's trying to get himself over. And it's who was the whoa guy, Matt
Oh,
uh,
Cardona.
Cardona. Yeah, he was like the king of go ahead, try to get yourself over and see if they don't fire you. You know what I mean?
Right, right. And the thing with him though is I feel like besides Cody, he's the other guy that left WWE and made himself and like reinvented himself and made himself like a huge star in the indies. Like
Yeah,
Cody did that and look where it got it. He did that and then he came back and the rest is history, wins the title, all that stuff. But I feel like besides him, Cardona, he really he made a name for himself big time.
he did, and they reward him by hiring his wife.
Right, right. And she's incredible. She's
Oh yeah,
incredible, dude.
yeah, yeah. No,
She's so funny.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I think it's one of those things where WWE is just so. I mean, from an outsider's point of view, they're so manipulative and so fucked up. And if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind talking about some of the other releases, and then we'll get into the match by match stuff, which we keep
Yeah,
delaying.
fine.
That's okay. Braun Strowman, what do you think of him getting shit canned once again?
Well, from what I heard was he was making a pretty exorbitant price tag,
Right.
and I mean, I feel like they still could have used him, but maybe not for what they were paying him. But I feel like they also hurt him a lot over the last like year or two. He basically lost all the matches, and they put him in these matches that he he's not really in the storyline or whatever, but they just kind of interject him in some way. Like, oh, you're gonna have a match against this guy, or it's gonna be a triple threat, or whatever. The most memorable thing I remember happening with him over the last 2 years or whatever is when Bronson Reed splashed him on top of that car
Right.
and like crushed the car. But I feel like they still could have used him. I mean, he really could have been portrayed as a monster because his body was obviously shot, dude. Like you could tell by the way he was moving around when he's running. Like he had so many injuries. So, but he could have been one of those guys that just squashes people, you know?
They didn't put him on pay-per-views, did they, in this last run?
Not really. I mean, maybe once, I think.
He wasn't on WrestleMania. Was he in the WrestleMania
No,
Battle Royal this year?
I don't know. I'm not sure because that was on SmackDown, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So Braun Strowman, this is how all over the place he was. The pandemic WrestleMania 2020. I guess it was going to be the main event of night one. Actually, WrestleMania 2020 was supposed to be a one-night affair until the pandemic came. That's
Right.
what
I was
started.
supposed to go. I was supposed to go
Oh,
to
were you?
that.
You got a ticket from
Yeah, I had
Tampa?
tickets. Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
go the next year, or what did you do?
No. They just they refunded my tickets because they canceled it.
All right.
Yeah.
How much was the ticket? I'm just curious.
I think it was like a lot cheaper than it is now. I want to say it was only like it's a little over 300, 350 maybe.
Okay. Decent seat or
And
shitty seat or somewhere in between?
no, it wasn't that bad. They weren't that bad.
All
I mean,
right.
they weren't like fucking super close, but they weren't all the way up in the nosebleeds either. They were kind of in the middle.
All right. So, 2020, it was supposed to be, I guess it would have been for the Universal title. Roman Reigns challenging our buddy Goldberg. And I believe
Oh, right.
I could, if I have this right, which maybe I don't, but I believe Goldberg had beaten the Fiend in Saudi Arabia, if I'm getting that right. And
It sounds very familiar.
yeah, because I know that the Fiend had it for a little while. This is the Universal title, not the Bruno belt. So
Right.
basically, because God, I'm trying to, Roman won the Universal title first, right? Before he ever got the Bruno title. Like he was only the Universal
Yes,
champion for a couple of years.
I think so.
That's right. So this was Goldberg was supposed to defend and parentheses most likely lose against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and then pandemic breaks out, and Roman, of course, has leukemia, and he has to be very careful. And so he basically dropped out of WrestleMania, whether it was his choice, the company's choice, or a mutual agreement, doctor's supervision, who knows. So you've basically lost one of your biggest stars for this show. Roman and Goldberg is out. And so basically the way Braun Strowman tells the story, he was like, oh, I'm not booked for WrestleMania. I'll just drive home for the weekend. And so he's in his truck driving home for the weekend. And he's hearing all this shit about a pandemic and this coronavirus. And then he gets a call from 203 area code WWE in Connecticut. And they're like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to the farm. You're not using me for Mania. Well, we are now. And so they basically put him in the spot, like, and
Against Goldberg, right?
against Goldberg, and he
And he
won.
beat him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
I think that became the main event for night one. Like they
But
had
that was before he got fired the first time, wasn't it?
yeah, I think so.
I think it was. I think it
Yeah.
was.
So they bring him in. That I believe that night also had, I want to say this, oh God, I want to say Undertaker and AJ finished that first night.
Yeah.
And then, but this was like the regular match to close the show. And then they did Undertaker and AJ as the final thing on the show, the final movie match. And,
Right.
so Braun is the champion and blah, blah, blah. I think he either lost to Bray Wyatt or he still had it. And they had like a three-way match. And Roman Reigns with Heyman in his corner interjected himself into this match to make it a three-way. and Roman Reigns wins the title from either Braun or the Fiend or Bray Wyatt, and we're off and running. But basically, Braun Strowman is a guy. My point is, he can either not be on the card at all, or he could be beating Goldberg for the title. You know,
Right. Yeah. No, it's very true. That's very true.
there was, and he started off as, what was the guy's name? Adam Rose. He had the Rosebuds, like the people.
Oh, right, right. He was like the big guy in the dancing group.
Right, and then he was, maybe the thing that he fit in the best was as the extreme heater among heaters. You know, you have Rowan and the Luke was our buddy there. He passed
Luke
away.
Harper.
Luke Harper, and you had Bray Wyatt, and you had the crazy group, and then I think one of them got injured. I think it might have been Luke got injured, and they brought in as a new guy, Braun Strowman,
which was great. When that happened, that was great.
Yeah. And so to me, it's kind of sad that two of those guys are now deceased and the other two are not really in the business anymore or
right.
whatever.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like this guy, here's a question for you and AJ and anyone else that's watching, Gonzo, was Braun Strowman was not part of the Wyatt Six recently, was he?
No. But I want to say Eric Rowan was.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So I guess my thought is, and I guess I'm still waiting to see if they ever bring back the Wyatt Six with Alexa Bliss.
I mean, that was short-lived.
Right. But they were like the crazy thing for a month, and now they're all gone. But
well, the thing is, you know, the first week, Chad Gable got a bullet in his head.
Right.
And, you know, it was like, holy shit, dude, what the hell's going on? And then, like, the next week, they did something else that was good, like those videos with Uncle Howdy or whatever talking. That was great.
Yes.
But then they started putting them in matches. And I feel like that's where they fucked it up. You know what I mean? Like, they should have never been scheduled for, like, matches. They just should have never even been like that. You can't go from them, like, putting a bullet in the guy's head pretty much to now they're just having matches.
What was that group during the pandemic with the black masks? You know, the T? Like,
oh, my God. One of the guys' name was T-Bar or something, I think.
Yeah, that was a wrestler that I knew from New England.
What was the name of that group? I forget the name of the group. I know exactly what you're talking about, though.
It was like their little.
Was Mustafa Ali in that?
I think he was. Yeah, it was just like, and their outfits sucked. The name of the group sucked. Everything about it sucked, but somehow, and the
Retribution was it?
It might have been. Yeah, it might have been Retribution.
Something like that, I think.
And it was the guy's wife, like the big guy who went to AEW in the tag team, Bearcat, like
his right.
Asian wife. It's Keith Lee's wife.
Yeah. She was in that?
Yeah, I think she was under a mask.
Mia Yim or what is that?
Yeah, she was in that fucking group.
What? I didn't even know that. What the fuck?
They had a lot of people in that group. Dijak. Donovan Dijak was like the pseudo leader.
Oh, I remember that guy. Okay.
So he was a New England guy. I mean, I've talked to that guy and stuff. So, I mean, I was an early insider on the career that is Donovan Dijak. I knew he had a lot of talent. All right. So here's the results of this thing. Here are the matches. The Jacob retains his title. Second match, Lyra Valkyrie against Becky Lynch. What'd you think of this one?
I could take it or leave it. That wasn't really anything I was excited about.
I think for the actual wrestling, I thought it was okay. I mean, I thought it was, I thought it was. Let's put it this way. Go ahead.
I think, I feel like in WWE, usually the wrestling is always pretty good, I think. I feel like it's not too often that they I mean, it happens, but I feel like it's not too often that, they have a match and the actual match or the wrestling doesn't, isn't that great. I feel like it's usually good, but for whatever reason, I don't know, this storyline thing with her and Becky, it didn't resonate with me. I don't know why.
It might be because it feels like the same script that Charlotte and Tiffany just
Right,
used,
right.
and now Charlotte, I guess the next thing is Charlotte and Jade Cargill are kind of making eyeballs at each other. So the wily veteran upset at the young blood, that's a classic storyline, but let's not have two women doing it at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I
And
agree.
John Cena's doing it at the same time.
True.
So, I mean, if you remember going back to the dying days of WCW, the Millionaires Club against the New
New
Blood.
blood or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that, I mean, that's right on the money. I mean, that's my biggest issue with that storyline is that the name Millionaires Club is not something you can use for baby faces because wrestling fans, for the most part, are not millionaires and therefore do not want to cheer people that they're reminded are millionaires. Like if you called that group of Sting, Hogan, and everybody else anything but the Millionaires Club, the wily veterans, or the old school, or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
the prestige or something, that just said, okay, these are veterans, the main eventers, or whatever the fuck. But the established, whatever, it's just something, not Millionaires Club. Sorry, Vince Russo. So then we've got. I thought it was a decent for what it was for the ring action. I mean, comparing that to Tiffany and Charlotte, where they had so many flubs. But I think the difference is Tiffany and Charlotte had a lot of mojo going into it, and this Lyra Becky thing just feels like rehashment.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Dominic,
oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
No. That I wasn't. I didn't have anything important to say. Believe me.
Okay, then we go to Dominic Mysterio and Penta for the Intercontinental title. What'd you think?
This one I liked because I think Dominic has he's gotten really good. I like him as far as he's good in the ring, but he just really plays the sleazy greaseball type of douchebag very well. So I think that him in the spot's good. I like pretty much everything he does, and I'm just a huge fan of Penta. So I felt like this, I knew they were going to have a good match, and they did. I felt like they had a really good match, and I was actually kind of looking forward to that one just because I'm a big fan of Penta. I like Dominic, and yeah, I thought it was a good match, and I liked how there was little shenanigans at the end. I felt like that was good. Kind of muddied the waters a little bit, which was good. So I like that one all around. I thought that was a good one.
It's like I like what you said with the ending. You had Finn Balor kind of taking his sweet ass time to conk Penta with the title belt and
Right.
taking, accidentally on purpose, taking a long time in order for the referee to catch him doing so, and then throwing him and was it McDonough away from ringside, or was it
Yeah.
Carlito actually? And
Carlito. Yeah.
right, so that gives that's kind of nice because that continues the slow burn of Finn Balor getting kicked out of this group or turning on Dominic or however they go with it. If they swerve it, they swerve it. But as it's playing now, it's eventually Finn Balor either leaves the group or gets kicked out, and he turns baby face and fights Dominic.
Right. Right.
And so they do all that, and then you think, oh my God, Penta's got a shot now to win this title because it's all fair and square. But then El Grande Americano comes in and does a little interference and trips up our buddy Penta, and Dominic's able to get the victory. Am I getting that right?
Yeah. And I think that it's good because it's obviously we're gonna have some type of Penta versus El Grande, either a match or probably a feud or whatever, which is cool. But I like how Chad Gable could be involved in that somehow too, because he's playing two characters pretty much now. So I mean, I feel like it really opens up the possibilities of what you could do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of just for comedy's sake, they could have an advertised match of Penta and Phoenix against El Grande, against El Grande Americano and Chad Gable.
Right,
So
right.
that they have to do something where like maybe Chad Gable comes out to the ring. He doesn't have El Grande Americano with him. And they're like, "Where's your partner?" And he says, "Oh, he missed. He's running late. He's running late to the arena. But start the match. You'll be here any minute." So they start the match, and then like they're fighting. Like he's fighting both Luchador brothers, and then something happens where he bails out of the ring. He goes to the back, and then El Grande Americano comes out by himself to wrestle for a couple of minutes or whatever. There's so much fun you could do with that, and then eventually they could do a thing where El Grande Americano and Chad Gable have beef with each other, so they have to wrestle each other, and then whatever. I mean, they could put another guy underneath the mask. They could do a thing where one guy wins by forfeit.
I mean, this whole time, dude, I've been wanting so bad for a Grande Americano to be in a match or be in a situation. And, this whole time we're all thinking it's Chad Gable, and it seems obvious it's Chad Gable, but then you put fucking El Grande in some type of situation or he's in a match, and all of a sudden Chad Gable appears. And you're like, holy shit, I thought he was Chad Gable. Who the fuck is that? I've been wanting that to happen so bad. Because I feel like it would have been great.
There's some historical context for that. I'll give you two examples.
Right.
Back in 1984, Tommy Rich lost a loser leave town match in Georgia to Ted DiBiase. And so kind of in the grand tradition of the Midnight Rider, pretty soon after there was a mask guy showing up on Georgia Championship Wrestling named Mr. R, who he would assume would be like Mr. Rich, And this guy's wearing like a tracksuit and a very plain blue mask. And this is Mr. R, and Mr. R is challenging Ted DiBiase, trying to avenge Tommy Rich. But we all know it's Tommy Rich, right? So eventually we get this match on Georgia Championship Wrestling between Ted DiBiase defending the national title against Mr. R. And the match is pretty quick. They're going back and forth. Mr. R is hitting them with those wildfire punches. And then eventually DiBiase gets the upper hand. And he's got Mr. R on the ground on the canvas, and he's trying to pry his mask off, and he's got the mask halfway off, and then DiBiase looks over to the commentary booth, and next to Gordon Soley is Tommy Rich waving at him in the tracksuit.
Oh my god!
So DiBiase's like flipping out. So DiBiase takes one final yank off the mask. And then he doesn't even look to see who he just unmasked. He goes over to the ropes to point at Tommy Rich at the commentary booth with Gordon. And then the guy on the mat gets up and pushes DiBiase against the ropes, rolls him up into a very tight rolling reverse cradle.
Oh my god.
Wins the national title. And then we see who it is. And you want to guess who it is?
Tommy Rich?
No, Tommy Rich is with Gordon.
Okay, I was going to say, so it can't be him. I don't know. Who was it?
Brad Armstrong.
Oh, my God.
So
wow.
Why is it Brad Armstrong? Is because a year earlier, Brad Armstrong's father, Bob Armstrong, in storyline was injured by Ted DiBiase in a weight room. That Bob Armstrong was lifting weights in a weight room somewhere in Marietta, Georgia. Ted DiBiase either happened to be there or pre-planned this and smashed the fucking weights on Bob Armstrong's head when he was doing the bench press. The real story is like Bob Armstrong got into a car accident in real life and they made the weightlifting thing up to, make some money. But basically, Brad Armstrong is avenging the year-old injuries from his father and teaming up with Tommy Rich.
And I bet a lot of people remembered too, though.
Well, enough people remembered that it got over. And so Brad Armstrong had been like this up-and-comer for a couple of years, and now he's the national champion, and he had a really good run. at that time. And there's another wrestling story of going forward a few years, I guess 9 years. Do you remember the Hollywood Blondes in WCW?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So Austin and Pillman, they beat Steamboat and Shane Douglas for the titles, and then I think it was a deal where they didn't want to give the Austin the Blondes didn't want to give Steamboat and Douglas a rematch, so this new tag team came out of nowhere, and they were doing the thing with the Brush with Greatness tour, which was basically the Hollywood Blondes beating jobbers, but they made it seem like it was a big opportunity for the jobbers. Like this is the Brush with Greatness tour, and we're giving all these undercard wrestlers a big title shot for their hopes and dreams, but they were just beating up job guys. So they get put against Dos Hombres, which seemed like a couple of bums, a couple of jabronis in masks, and then the Dos Hombres like beat them in a non-title match, and then it's assumed that the Dos Hombres are actually Shane Douglas and Ricky Steamboat under masks, trying to get their
Really?
rematch. And they build up to Slamboree '93, where they have this big cage match for the titles, and it's Pillman and Austin defending against Dos Hombres under the mask, Steamboat and Douglas, and they're fighting and fighting and fighting. And then there's a point where all four guys are like climbing to get out of the cage, and everybody's climbing up, and the Blondes are about to escape the cage, and somebody climbs up the outside of the cage to scare them, and it's another Dos Hombre, a third Dos Hombre. And the third Dos Hombre lifts up his hood, and it's Shane Douglas. So then it's like, who the fuck's in the ring? Like if Shane Douglas is at ringside, who are they fighting? And they never revealed who it was. But if you got Wrestling Observer, or if you found out through somebody else, it was actually that Shane Douglas was like legitimately injured for a while. And so on all the house shows, they replaced Shane Douglas with Tom Zenk. So Tom Zenk was basically playing the role of Shane Douglas, and there you go.
Wow. Yeah. See, and I feel like those types of angles work though.
Yeah, yeah. It's fun. I mean, it's kind of like a classic wrestling foil or a classic wrestling trope, like the mask guy.
Yeah. Right.
Think it is like we all think it's this one guy, but it's somebody else.
Right.
What do you make of this? I'm not sure who he's talking about. AJ's mentioning a new group, NXT Shield. They look like jobbers. I'm not sure who these guys are, buddy. If
yeah, I don't know who it is.
I'm going to the NXT.
Idea.
There's an NXT show, I guess a week from Saturday, or in 6 days I'll be at. There's an NXT show coming up in Jacksonville, so I'll be going to that. Maybe these guys will show up. Actually, I think I might know who he's talking about, because I was at the last NXT show in Jacksonville, and twice this group showed up and just this was at a house show too. This group just showed up from the dressing room or from outside, and they stormed the ring and they beat everybody up, and then the security kicked them out. So I've seen them, but I just don't know who they are.
Okay.
Americano can be Julia Creed to mess with the fans. Who's Julia Creed? Who?
She's the girl that's with the
all right.
with that what's that tag team? All American something or some shit like that. All American Alpha. It's not American Alpha.
It's not Otis's group, right?
No, that's the Alpha Academy.
Yeah. Okay.
The other guys, I can't remember their name.
Right.
Austin, one of the guys' name's Creed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. It could be. I mean, do they have the same physique? I mean, I would assume she's got more of a feminine physique.
She's pretty ripped, but she's small.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here was the thing. Did you see the before the pay-per-view tonight? I think it was on SmackDown. Cena did a promo. At the end of his promo, a guy came into the ring under a mask, tried to do an arc. Yeah. Okay. So then that guy got squished out, and then the real Randy Orton came in and got an RKO on Cena. So who was the first guy?
I don't know. I thought about that. I don't know.
The first guy seemed like it might have been a woman because he was really small.
Yeah. I knew right away it wasn't Randy Orton.
Right.
There's no way that's Randy Orton.
Yeah. Was it Sean Spears? That's what I don't know. AJ, are you saying that it was Sean Spears that went for the first guy to attack Cena before the real Orton was in there? It might have been.
Yeah,
I mean, they may
wouldn't be
not have
surprised.
identified him storyline wise, but maybe just as a body. All right, let's dig through these other matches real quick, buddy, and then we'll call it a wrap.
All right.
So we kind of split. I thought the Becky Lynch Lira. I mean, it's not match of the year type of stuff, but I thought at least the wrestling was good. Dominic and Mysterio. I think we both like that one. Okay, and we only have 2 matches left, but as far as emotional storytelling and this was kind of, I mean, I before it started, I kind of said, well, I guess this is kind of a gimmick match, but in a lot of ways, as far as emotional content, I mean, it's probably the second best thing on the show. Gunther and Pat McAfee. What'd you think?
Right. So I mean, I kind of like the ending. You know, I thought they, you know, at least put some you know some storyline part of it where, you know, Michael Cole gets involved or whatever. So I liked how Michael Cole, you know, kind of got involved and then got pushed down or whatever. You know, he's trying to help his friend, his commentary buddy. So I mean, I thought that was good, and I was glad Gunther won. You know, because if they would have had McAfee win, I feel like you kill Gunther, like he's fucking dead after that. So I was glad that he won, but you know, I was the whole time I was watching that, I was trying to think. I was like thinking to myself, like, is McAfee like getting too much in on this? You know what I mean? Like, would it have been better if Gunther just like really squashed the shit out of him? I don't know. I'm not sure. As far as storyline wise, though, because I mean, I feel like WrestleMania weekend, Gunther choking him out might have been like the best thing, or like the second best thing. Like I like that a lot. I thought that was really good.
The Monday after WrestleMania.
Yeah, the Monday. Yeah.
Is that what it happened? It happened the next night.
Yeah, I think so. I think
he lost to Jey Uso the first match of the first night.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I was wondering, could they actually have McAfee win this match and not totally blow up Gunther for 2 years? And I mean, I thought for whatever reason, and they gave like McAfee's stats as a wrestler. I mean, but didn't this guy fought Adam? What's that guy? Adam, the guy at AEW now.
Cole. Adam Cole.
Who won that? Did Cole win that, or did McAfee win it?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
But then
they had a War Games match and everything too. They had a few matches, I think.
Right, but I was wondering. I think McAfee might have beat Cole. I don't know.
He probably did. Yeah.
Right, but and then he was at WrestleMania a few years ago, and he got beat up by Vince. But who did he beat? The young guy, Vince's prodigy.
What, Austin Theory?
Yeah. Didn't McAfee beat Austin Theory?
Maybe. I mean, the thing I remember the most out of that was him getting Stone Cold Stunner.
Got a request.
That's the thing I remember.
Right. So I mean, the point is McAfee doesn't always lose. Is the point? Like he doesn't go in there just to lose.
Right.
I thought it was possible, and maybe if it had been McAfee's hometown or whatever, I thought they could have done this a couple of ways. I think what they did was a good way to do it, which is, you know, Gunther wins, but McAfee is victorious in defeat. You know, he's and it's kind of like at the end. What did you think of that little? It wasn't a handshake per se, but it was kind of a salute, like a hand salute thing. That
Him and Gunther?
At the end of the match, yeah. If you stuck around at the end,
I think I missed it.
Okay, so basically, McAfee's fucked up. McAfee's done. He's beat up. He's lost. Gunther gets up. They're kind of, and Michael Cole's still in there, and Wade Barrett on commentary. They're kind of prolonging the drama. Like, okay, is Gunther is still talking smack to the ref, and it looks like Gunther is either he's going to go attack Michael Cole, because Michael Cole's in the ring at this point, helping McAfee get up. So is Gunther going to attack Michael Cole? Is Gunther going to take some cheap shots at McAfee and Michael Cole get involved? Is Michael Cole going to step up to Gunther? What's going to happen? And eventually Cole and McAfee are able to get McAfee to his feet, and they're kind of just standing there looking at Gunther, waiting to see what Gunther's going to do. And Gunther just steps up to him, and he's about 2 feet away, 2 or 3 feet away. And you're like, is he? I mean, the basic generic thing would be Gunther's going to offer a hand to shake his hand. McAfee's going to try to shake his hand, and Gunther will kick him in the balls, right? Like, that's a thought. Or maybe they actually do shake hands, which just kind of leaves it like, okay, we did our business and now it's over. And Gunther goes back to being a heel, or maybe planting a seed for Gunther to turn babyface or whatever. But instead of any of that, they do what's behind door number 3, which is Gunther puts his hand out and then gives him a little, like, it was like a little salute. Like he was kind of like, I'm saluting you. Like, it kind of gave him like a 2 little waves with his extended hand. He wasn't looking for a handshake, but he was just kind of saying, I salute you, Gunther to McAfee. And then he just kind of turned and walked out. And when he's leaving, it wasn't exactly a thumbs up, but it was kind of like a raised hand of, you fought valiantly, my man, or some shit like that. So
did you happen to hear the other rumor that was going around about that?
No.
So there was a rumor going around. I heard Uncle Vince talking about it, Uncle Vinny Roo, and apparently there was this rumor that the way that they were going to get out of the match tonight was that Goldberg was going to save Pat McAfee, and to set up Goldberg versus Gunther at SummerSlam. Now, obviously, that didn't happen.
Right, it didn't.
But apparently that was a rumor.
And they've teased that before because they actually did business in the ring at least once.
Right, yeah. Gunther said that his favorite wrestler was Goldberg.
Right. Or Bret Hart.
I remember that. I was Wait. Oh, did you say Bret Hart?
I think he did it. I think he did both guys. I think Gunther was with Bret and said his favorite wrestler was Goldberg. And I think he was with Goldberg and said his favorite wrestler was Bret. I think that's what
right. Yeah, I think yeah.
I think he played it both ways.
Yeah.
And either way works. Either way is great.
Right.
So the Gunther Goldberg thing must have been 6 months ago, right?
Yeah, probably something like that. 6 to 9 months or something, I would say.
Here's another thought I had, which they didn't do, obviously, but I thought if they were going to have McAfee win, or even have him lose, they could have had Jimmy Uso come out.
Yeah, true.
And it's like, if you still, I mean, I guess I'm wondering, if you've got Jimmy Uso under contract, why don't you use him? And I guess for him to come out and beat Gunther, then I guess they're really blowing up Gunther to smithereens, meaning Jey Uso. But at least, I want to get these names right. Jimmy Uso. If Jimmy Uso, who was the one that was bludgeoned and bloodied and humiliated, if Jimmy Uso came out, Big Jim, and he either threw in the towel for McAfee, or he caused McAfee to be disqualified, or he just jumped in the ring and started beating up Gunther, and they just threw the match out. And maybe Gunther give Gunther the DQ victory, or he threw in the towel, or whatever the fuck they could have done. I guess in a worst case, best case scenario, they could have had Big Jim interfere so much that McAfee got a cheapo pin on Gunther, and it still keeps, Gunther has an opt out because it was interference. You could have done a lot of stuff. Right. If you wanted to bring Big Jim in, but it's kind of a weird thing whenever they have a tag team, if they don't blatantly split up the tag team and one guy is just the chosen one to become a solo star and the other guy is just kind of hanging around. I mean, the only thing I can think of as a comparable situation is when Bret Hart became a breakout solo star and Jim the Anvil Neidhart was just kind of floating around as a mid-card guy and a commentary guy and eventually a fired guy. But what do you think of all that?
I mean, I never thought about Jimmy Uso being involved in it, so that kind of just that was something that I never thought about until you just said it.
Right.
I mean, I wish they would do that because I feel like Jimmy Uso is like totally just floating around in limbo. You know what I mean? And I feel like he needs something, dude. He needs something, a little spark or something to set him on the right path. And I feel like with the way Gunther brutalized him before WrestleMania, he should be involved with Gunther somehow, probably, or something, just because, I feel like they don't do anything with him. And he's got the potential to be, a very high level mid carder at least.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those
singles
things.
Wise.
Right. To me, it's one of those things where what separates, I mean, maybe a more informed fan of modern WWE would know, what separates Jimmy Uso from Jey Uso? Is it just that one wants to be a bigger star? Like, is it just that Jey Uso expresses the desire to be a bigger star, or because they're twins, right? They're identical twins. So
yeah.
What separates one from the other? Is it just desire? Is there some feeling for whatever reason that Jay is a better high flyer, or he's more charismatic, or what? Like, what's the difference between these two guys?
It's tough to say too, because back and I was saying this to my girl, like, a week or two ago, we were talking about WrestleMania or something like that, and I had said to her that, like 10 years ago when the Usos were a tag team, and even before, sooner than that, even like 5 years ago when they were still a tag team, it seemed like Jimmy would have been the one that would have broke out for some reason, and Jay would have been the one that was kind of, relegated to the background, so to speak, kind of the same way that, Jimmy is right now.
Right.
And it's very interesting to me that it went the other way. I always thought Jay would have been the one that didn't become a huge star before Jimmy. And it ended up going the complete opposite of that, which is crazy. And I just wonder, I don't know, is it just Yeet? Is it just because he came up with Yeet? I really, I feel like that could actually almost be plausible, that he just came up with the Yeet thing and it caught on so fast and so hot that they were like, okay, because obviously they're running with that. They have them come out, they stop the song and restart it, and they're beating the thing like a dead horse at this point. So, yeah, I mean, they got to do something more with Jimmy, and unfortunately, they can't do anything with Jimmy against Jay because I feel like that's too fresh. They've already done that a few times recently.
I think they've done it at least twice.
Yeah.
I think they did it a couple of times, like in the Bloodline, and I think they did it at least twice in the Bloodline thing, and so forth. So, right. And it's kind of the exact same thing with the Hardys. Like, whenever Matt and Jeff Hardy wrestled each other, the fans didn't really want to see it because it wasn't that good, and because the fans just didn't buy into it. And same thing with the Usos. When they wrestle each other, it seems like either they want to do it or the promotion wants to do it, but the fans just don't get into it. So, yeah, I think going back to what we were saying earlier, could Big Jim figure into this Dark Side of the Moon bloodline? Solo and Jeff.
That could work.
Yeah. What about that tag team that was in the Tonga Tama and Tama Tonga or whatever?
Yeah, I don't know that. Are they both hurt? I think the Tama guy is hurt. No. The one that's not Haku's son is hurt. But now I'm wondering if the Tama Tonga guy who is Haku's son, I'm wondering if he's hurt now too. They must both be hurt.
And those two guys aren't related to each other then?
I don't know.
but they
I'm
look
not
a lot
sure.
alike.
Because the thing is, I don't know if Haku is a part of the Rikishi and Roman and Yokozuna like family bloodline thing or not. I don't know if he's a part of that.
They never really said that he was. I mean, the big conceit from The Rock and others is that, oh, if you're from the islands, you're all family. If you're from Samoa, you're all family. But I believe Haku was, when he first started wrestling, he was called Tonga John, and then King Tonga. So Haku was supposed to be from the Tongan Islands, and I don't know how close that is to Samoa.
I don't either. I have no
Here's a
idea.
here's a rip on that they could do, but I don't think they have done. Is apparently there's a divide between Samoa and America Samoa. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but from what I understand, like the United States of America has some province over one of the Samoan islands, and that's called American Samoa, and that is seen as like the corporate sellout
Oh
part
God.
by like the non-American Samoans. So
Right, right, right.
my point is like have the Disney World American Samoa against the legit streetwise Samoa, and like I'm not sure who would be on whose side, but maybe the bad guys would be America Samoa, or I don't know. I mean, but maybe that's too geographical for the fans to follow. I did see a commercial tonight, and look, I haven't played a WWE video game in a very long time, but I know that it's a big deal for a lot of people, and I'm not. Maybe AJ here, our guest commentator, but I don't know. Maybe you there, Gonzo, but I know that a lot of fans put a lot of energy and excitement into their playing of the video games every year. And I will say this: the video games now look so realistic. I mean, I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
about the playment, but the visuals are outstanding. So
No, they're good. They're good.
yeah,
I actually I just bought probably like 6 months ago. I bought a PlayStation 5 from somebody that I work with, and I got the wrestling game, and the graphics are unbelievable, unbelievable.
so tonight they advertise, and maybe because you are you pay the extra, maybe you pay the extra money, Gonzo, for the better Peacock.
The
Like
Peacock, yeah,
you pay the $12 a month instead of the 7, like us plebeians.
right,
But
right,
they had a commercial for the plebeians of a new WWE game or the existing game or something, and Paul Heyman was doing the voiceover for the video game commercial, where you
oh,
can relive the Samoan bloodlines great history, and they were showing
yeah.
like Yokozuna in there, and they were showing the Head Shrinkers against the Steiners at WrestleMania 9, and Roman Reigns, of course. So I guess it was a thing where,
That's a new thing in the new game.
right. So I don't know if that's the whole game or if that's just a certain, you
No,
know,
it's like how like uh, aside from wrestling and sports games, a lot of other games like have you know a main mission that
right.
into like in a final boss you have to beat or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that this thing that they put in there is supposed to be like WWE's version of something like that because you have to like go through the island of relevancy, I think is what it's called, and it's got all these different like quests that you have to do and these different things, which the quests are basically like doing something for a wrestler or attacking somebody, I'm guessing, and then it could be a match or whatever. But yeah, it's like a whole thing in the game.
Well, I think that's cool. I like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm not being sarcastic. I think if I
No,
was
no, yeah.
still into video games, I'd be all over that. And I would enjoy, like, oh, cool. It's, WrestleMania 9. Yoko's going to challenge, like Yoko's going to beat Brett and then he's going to beat Hogan as well, or
Yeah, see,
it's,
I have the one from last year, the game from last year, but they have it's like relive all WrestleMania, like the greatest matches or whatever. And you go through like a timeline. So and it starts at like WrestleMania 1 and it has like, all these different matches and you have to actually like do certain things in the match, and it makes the match play out the way it actually happened in real life. So it's pretty cool. Like I've enjoyed it very much. I mean, I barely ever play, so I haven't played it in like a month or a month and a half probably.
Yeah.
But when I sat down and played it, like I enjoyed it a lot. It was very fun to like them going back through the old matches and stuff, and then you have to wrestle the old matches. And I had to do like Hogan versus Andre. I had to do Hogan and Warrior, all these different matches from WrestleMania. So it was pretty damn cool.
But you're still playing the game as one of the wrestlers and trying to win the match, right?
Yeah. Like you will, you're always gonna be the guy that wins the match. So like when it was Hogan and Andre, I had to be Hogan,
right?
And it literally like there's different points in the match, like because it'll tell you there's like different missions that you have to do in the match. So it might say like perform 3 front attacks on the guy or whatever. And then like maybe a different prompt will pop up and it says like whip him into the ropes. But then when you whip him into the ropes, it triggers like this like checkpoint in the match where you stop playing. Now you're not playing anymore. And it cuts away to like this video. And first it'll be like the game animated. So like it'll be actually like the match that you're having, but now you're not controlling it anymore. It's just an animated thing. But then it changes over to the real video.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool because then it shows you like a bunch of the real footage from the match. And then it goes back to the game and then you start playing again.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's cool. I liked it a lot.
So is your
and they actually did something like this like 10 years ago. Like might have been 2K14 or some bullshit. But this one is way better than that one. Like this one is really cool.
They had the idea 10 years ago, but the technology wasn't quite ready for it.
Right.
It sounds interesting. I guess to me, that's not to say mind-boggling, but both as a wrestling fan and a video gamer from a long time ago, it seems like that's like you're almost like, I guess the idea is the challenge is not whether just to win or lose the wrestling match, but the challenge is to keep the history. Like you have to match how the match played out in reality, almost like you're trying to be the best performer of Hulk Hogan in this match, rather than you're just the wrestler trying to win the match. Like that's interesting. I don't know if I like it, but it's interesting.
No, it's cool. It's I think anybody that like enjoys the games, would enjoy that.
Is it possible for Andre to win the match and then you're really a shithead? Like if you lose?
Yeah. He can win the match and then you just fucked up and you have to redo the match.
All right, well, I like that part of it, as long as it's not a rigged match, because I don't want my pro wrestling video game matches to be predetermined here.
No. I mean, it's only rigged in the sense of it following what actually happened in real life.
That's cool. I get it. I mean, I guess let's put it this way: if people have been playing video games for 20 years or whatever, then you have to do things differently just to do them differently after a while. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you can't.
I gotta get a drink. I'll be right back.
But let me address this question from our buddy AJ here. AJ, thanks for hanging with us. CM Punk versus John Cena, Money in the Bank. Will Punk beat Cena? What if Cena the third man when Seth and Braun stop Punk? Oh, that's very good, buddy. I like that, AJ. So Cena, Seth Rollins, and Braun Breaker. I guess the only thing screwing me up with that is technically if Seth Rollins is fighting Jimmy Uso, or I'm sorry, Jey Uso. Seth Rollins is fighting Jey Uso for that World Heavyweight title, but Cena is the WWE champion. I think Cena and the WWE title are technically a SmackDown title, and Seth is trying to get that Monday Night Raw Bruno title away from Jey Uso. in the strictest sense, AJ, if you're still doing a, which I mean, they flop around so much, so who knows? Anything's possible. But if technically Jey Uso is the Monday Night Raw champion and Cena is the Friday Night SmackDown champion, to put all those two titles in one group might be counterproductive to what they're trying to do with the title split. But other than that, I like it. Now with CM Punk and Cena and Money in the Bank, I don't know if that's been promoted already. I don't know if you caught some inside thing. It does make sense though, because they did have that big match, I guess 14 years ago already. Wow, time flies. So in since you were gone, so much has happened. AJ has let us know that he thinks, I don't know if this is a rumor or if this is confirmed, Gonzo, that CM Punk versus Cena at Money in the Bank. I believe that's the pay-per-view. It's like June 7th. There's like a one day of two WWE pay-per-views.
I saw that
thing, right? So they're having the AAA thing, and we'll see how much influence WWE puts on AAA.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's at like 3:00 in the afternoon, and then I think it's 7:00 at night. And I think AJ, if he's just coming up with this, I give him credit, or maybe he's not. But he's suggesting that it's CM Punk versus John Cena at Money in the Bank. And wasn't that like in 2011, the Summer of Punk? Wasn't that one of their big matches? Was it Money in the Bank? Wasn't that
it was the one? Yeah, and it was the one where, which I wasn't even watching wrestling at this time, but since I started watching it, I've seen the highlights. But it was the one where CM Punk was going to like take the belt. It happened in Chicago,
right?
And he beat Cena, and then he was going to like steal the belt. And I remember like, Vince McMahon was out by ringside, and Punk like ran through the crowd with the belt and like blew him a kiss and all this stuff.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, depends on how you ask, or who you ask, but the legend is that Punk was actually, his contract was legitimately running out, and
right.
They went to Chicago like, okay, either you're going to sign a new contract or you're going to put Cena over. And I guess according to, I think what I heard Punk say is he would have done either one. He would have lost to Cena because he didn't have an issue with Cena. It would have had to have been a good match, but he would have lost to Cena and then just left. Or let's work out a new contract and let's do something with this. So they worked out a new contract and they did something with that. So
I want to say that coincided with the pipe bomb promo. I think maybe the pipe bomb promo.
Well, the pipe bomb promo led to it. The pipe bomb led to it.
Right.
So the pipe bomb is what set off that whole summer of Punk in WWE. They had a summer of Punk like 5 years earlier in Ring of Honor. And I don't know too much about that one. I think that's when Punk was leaving Ring of Honor to go to WWE, to the farm system. And so on his way out of Ring of Honor, he kind of did the exact same thing. He's like, I'm going to take this belt with me and throw it on Vince McMahon's desk and blah, blah, blah. So 5 years later, this is when he's pissed off with WWE. Here's a thing that's controversial. AAA has Alberto Del Rio. WWE, he's employed by them. Interesting. Yeah. So that's an interesting bedfellows thing. Alberto Del Rio, who I was never a big fan of, not just because of his outside the ring stuff. I just wasn't a big fan of his inside the ring stuff. But basically, he's apparently what I heard on Meltzer, to give Meltzer credit, the WWE signed all these guys from AAA, not as an extension of their AAA contracts, but like as additional WWE contracts, including Alberto, basically because they didn't want any of these AAA guys to get exposure on the WWE watch on pay-per-view or premium live event, and then have them get snatched up by AEW specifically. So their defense to that is, okay, if these guys are signed to AAA and we're sponsoring or promoting a AAA pay-per-view, then they also have to have WWE contracts, because that's our defense against them getting exposure from us and then getting an AEW contract. So in that business type of way, it makes perfect sense. The conflict is Alberto having a previous AAA contract for the smart wrestling fan community. He's not very well liked because of the history of him and women, specifically Paige or Sierra. And I'm not exactly sure. I have to do a little bit of a time machine, but I think basically that was one of those age gap relationships.
Yeah.
They both looked like they were kind of under the influence of stuff. There was a thing where she proposed marriage to him in the ring at some independent show. And I think they eventually got to the point where police had to be called and the two of them had to be separated by law. So,
well, I mean, and they look like the fucking odd couple. Like when
yeah,
you look at them, they look at two people that wouldn't go together.
right. Yeah. So,
what do we got? One more match?
Yeah, we got one more match to talk about.
Let's do it because I got to bring my dog out. So let's wrap her up.
So the dog will basically the main event. So we get to the main event. We get to Cena and Randy Orton, and of course Randy gets a huge ovation. This is in St. Louis.
Right.
Was this the Kiel Auditorium? I don't remember. But
they said there was over 17,000 people there.
That sounds big. The Kiel, I think, is like the historic 1980s, 60s, 70s, 80s, where Harley Race used to wrestle. Yeah, I mean, it. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's where Owen passed away. Is what I was getting at.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I'm gonna look that up while we talk about it. But Orton gets the big ovation. He gets the big hometown hero welcome. Cena gets the boos. The match starts off at a pretty methodical pace. What were your thoughts of the opening few minutes of this match?
I liked it. I felt like it was, two veterans type of thing. It felt like one of those matches where it's two guys that are strong vets and two guys that have a lot of history together. So, I liked the way the match went for the most part. I really only had one issue with the match, but all in all, they're two pros, man. So I feel like they just, people say, "Oh, Cena can't wrestle," and yeah, he might not be like this crazy, mat technician type of guy, but Cena can always put on a good match, and to me, that's really what it's about. Can you have a good match? I don't care what you can do. Hogan did the leg drop, and he was the biggest star ever. So, it doesn't really matter how great of a wrestler you are necessarily. At least to me, it doesn't. But I feel like, both of these guys know how to have a good match. But I think Randy Orton's a little bit more of a technician, I guess, than Cena. But yeah, I liked the way it started, and like I said, I liked the whole match. Besides, I had a little bit of an issue with one thing, but that's about it.
What was the one thing you had?
I hate seeing so many fucking finishers.
Oh, okay.
I feel like there was one point in there, I think, where he hit him with the AA and he kicked out, and I want to say maybe Cena kicked out of an RKO.
More than one.
Oh, he kicked out of more than one.
Yeah, I mean, both. I think at least Cena had at least two AAs that Orton kicked out of. Orton had at least two RKOs that Cena kicked out of. There was a few, at least Cena pinning, at least Orton pinning Cena when the referee was knocked out. Two referees got knocked out, and Orton definitely had pins for a long time on both of those. The one variation that I thought was cool that I don't remember ever seeing before was Cena is doing a AA on Orton, and I caught it as it was happening. The commentators claimed that they didn't, but basically Orton hooked Cena's head, and effectively at the very same time, Orton's given an RKO, like a half-assed RKO, while Cena's given a half-assed AA. From my memory, that's the first time that's ever happened, and I thought that was cool.
Agree. Yeah, I thought it was cool too, and I don't think I've ever seen that before.
In a different world, they could have used that finish and just had both guys counted out of the mat, but
right.
Maybe
that could have worked
if they built up to it instead of it just. they would have had to have built up to that and not just have it a throwaway thing. As it was kind of a throwaway thing. But
Right.
I'm always happy when, especially older guys give you something you've never seen before. So that was cool. Um,
Yeah.
I thought that, I mean, I had a couple of little fantasy bookings when you and I were on Instagram going back and forth about doing this tonight. I thought in some weird world, the match started so early, like at 9:05. I thought,
Yeah.
are
Very
these,
strange.
yeah, are these guys going to go an hour? Like, are they going to have a 1 hour time limit
Yeah.
draw
Right. Right.
just to say that they did it? And then I'm basically, the reason why I think that is just to say that they did it, like for nothing else, for Orton and Cena to say, "Hey, we're two 40-year-old guys," and I thought that's why the match was starting so goddamn slow. Like, I'm thinking, well, if they were going to go an hour, the tempo that they were going at in the first 5 or 10 minutes of this match would have been fine because they were going nice and slow. Orton especially was milking the crowd for every little ounce of fan support,
Mm-hmm.
and I could have seen them doing rest holds and blah blah blah. So I really thought that they might have gone an hour just to stick it up Meltzer's ass or whatever else, just for their own enjoyment, if nothing else.
Yeah, I was wondering that too, if they were going to go for an hour, because it was, I want to say the match, they were both in the ring at 9:05. I want to say,
Right, right.
so I wondered to myself, is this going to go an hour? And that was funny because then you had texted me about the Iron Man match thing,
Yeah, yeah.
which I got a kick out of that.
Yeah, I was like, I think maybe you're like, I'm going to walk my dog and then we'll do it. I'm like, well, unless they do a 60-minute Broadway. So, let's see what else. I mean, I'll give these guys credit, and it's interesting how the last 20 years in American pop culture seems like 2 years. Like, if you were to look at the 1970s against the 1950s, or the 1970s against the 1990s, it's like different worlds from each other. And then if you
Oh
look at
yeah,
like 2025 against 2005, the biggest difference is probably social media and phones. But I mean, there were cell phones going on in 2005. I'm not sure when this iPhone first came out, but
yeah.
um,
There was cell phones, but not smartphones, basically back
right.
then.
But
A lot of people had flip phones.
yeah, but I mean, even
I
in
think the
2000,
iPhone came out back then, though. I think
yeah, it was
the
starting
first
to.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But like, you, even in 2005, you had message boards and you had online, you had
right.
you had I think Facebook was around, and or even MySpace or whatever. So you did have a form of social media. It wasn't as evasive as it is now. But my point with the time thing is just like Steamboat and Flair is like the rivalry I would say that before this one. And then it's like, I can't think of many pro wrestling rivalries that you could say dug this deep. You know what I mean?
Right, right,
So
right.
I give these guys credit, and they both look really good, and they both still do good matches.
Oh
Um,
yeah, dude, for sure.
I even thought, Gonzo, that, once again, Mike's fantasy booking, if you wanted to throw a swerve in there, have like Cena and Orton fighting, and then maybe a ref gets knocked down, or maybe whatever, but Cena leaves the ring and he's basically saying, "Fuck it, I'll get counted out. What do I care?" And then he's cut off because Cody Rhodes comes down the aisle, and
Oh,
Cody chases or just
ooh,
intimidates Cena, and Cena backpedals into the ring, and then RKO, and then Orton pins Cena, and you actually have the title change, and you have
that
Orton
would
get
have
a
been crazy.
you have, yeah, it would be kind of cool. And like, you could have Orton have like a one-off. He can defend the title at that June 7th thing against whoever, against Solo or against Drew McIntyre or whoever, and you can have Cena either like take the month off or whatever the fuck. But then you could have Cena regain the title, at the Saturday night's main event or something. And Cena
Right.
could basically just get a second run. Like, he could say, "I'm now the 18-time
Oh,
champion."
that would be funny.
And then you could have Cena avoiding Cody, like, "Hey, you cost me the title against Randy. I'm not going to wrestle you." and then eventually Cody has to get the big match towards the end of the year at Survivor Series or whatever they're going to do. But my point is, I think they could have actually gotten the belt on Orton for a cup of coffee just to give him that little push and still like built up the Cena Cody rivalry and not really hurt Cena that much.
I agree, because I think that anything that they could, kind of throw in there that would have been any type of swerve would have been pretty cool. So I mean, I feel like one of the biggest swerves you could have done would have been to have Randy Orton win the match, because I don't think anybody thought he was going to win. I mean, did you think he was going to win? Probably not, right?
No, I didn't. I think besides my little fantasy that I thought of just there, I didn't really. I thought even the fans in St. Louis, it was like they were even cheering, knowing that Randy was not going to win the title because they wouldn't change it so quickly after Mania. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Oh yeah, right.
I think
That which is crazy.
I mean, maybe I'm giving the fans too much credit, but I think that the fans in St. Louis are just even the marginally educated wrestling fan who goes on Twitter once a day or whatever would kind of say, "Oh yeah, well, this is just Randy. Just happens to be the guy that this match. Let's cheer him." But deep down in our hearts, we know they're not going to take it away from Cena quite yet.
Yeah,
I think that, but who knows?
Right.
As far as the
So
action, go ahead.
I was going to say, what do you say for overall for the whole show? What would you give it?
I thought it was a good backlash. I mean, I thought it was not off the charts. I mean, the best backlash. There was a backlash years ago where, like, I want to say the Austin and Rock had a rematch after WrestleMania 15. I think that was in Providence, Rhode Island, and people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that because they've had like 3 backlashes in Rhode Island.
Yeah, that's right. Like the Providence Civic Center became like the go-to backlash thing.
Yeah.
I think I went to the last one, which was like going back to like 2008 or 9 when they had Steamboat versus Jericho in a one-on-one match.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember. I saw the highlights of that.
I want to say that Randy Orton won the title that night over Triple H. They had like was it Randy Orton and Legacy against Triple H 3-on-1 or some shit like that? Was it some type of goofy thing? It was like a tag team match, but for a singles world title.
Oh God, one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Randy Orton.
David Arquette match.
It was like, was it Triple H and Vince and Shane against Legacy, or maybe it was 3-on-1. It was something like that.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah. But I remember that the first match on the show was Steamboat and Jericho, and we had a really good seat for that one, and it was a good show.
Hell yeah, that's cool.
And but as far as, I mean, here's the thing, also, Gonzo. I mean, I think today's wrestling fans should take note. We're not paying $49.95 for these things.
Right.
Our other choice tonight in entertainment was to pay $50 for the UFC pay-per-view. The way that WWE did things, they did wrap up nice and tidy. So technically you could have ordered the UFC pay-per-view right after. I think that if you're not paying the $24.95 or the $49.95 or whatever 15 years ago you would have paid for a WWE pay-per-view, as we used to call them, you used to have to really weigh, like, how many of these fucking pay-per-views can I afford? Or do I want to go to Hooters once a month and watch wrestling with a bunch of other smelly wrestling fans and look at these chicks' tits? And sometimes that's fun, sometimes it's not. I mean, how many how many chicken breast sandwiches can you eat over 3.5 hours, and try to get the best table near the TV and all that? So
right.
So these days, I'm paying $8 a month or $9 a month. You're paying the premium $12 a month for the lack of commercials. And I think when you weigh it like that, it's, I mean, you and not trying to plug Peacock, but you do get a lot of entertainment on there, and the wrestling.
Yeah, they have a lot. Yeah. They have a lot of stuff on Peacock.
Yeah.
So
if AEW gets to the point where they're pay-per-views become premium live events on a streaming service. I think that would be awesome. All right, let's just real quick. You have any thoughts on this Travis Scott guy? I really don't. I don't think I
Oh
like
God.
him.
Well, we already talked about before how some people died at his concert, so
Oh yeah.
that's pretty strange in and of itself. But yeah, because they got like trampled or whatever. But I felt like him coming out to screw Cody was just very strange. Everybody thought it was going to be The Rock. It wasn't The Rock. Probably was supposed to be The Rock, but for whatever reason it wasn't. Which who knows? There's all kinds of rumors going on right now about that. But yeah, I mean, it was very strange how The Rock never showed up, and Cena apparently aligned with The Rock, but I felt like they never really gave us a very good explanation for that at all. And then at WrestleMania, you think Rock's going to come out and it's Travis Scott, which was like, what the fuck is going on? And I don't like it. And the other rumor that I'm hearing now too, I don't know if you've heard this, but now I'm hearing that at SummerSlam it may be a tag match of Travis Scott and John Cena versus Cody and Bad Bunny. That's what I heard.
Ugh.
That's what I heard, which that would not be very good to me. And the other thing too is like Uncle Vince keeps saying this. And he says, we haven't heard from Cody in fucking 3 weeks. Travis Scott came in there, screwed him out of the title at WrestleMania. We haven't heard him at all. And, he keeps saying, could you imagine Stone Cold in the late 90s getting screwed over by like a 150-pound rapper, and then we don't hear from him or see him for 3 weeks? That would never, ever happen. And I don't think that would happen with anybody back then. It doesn't even matter who it was. The fact that we haven't seen Cody or anything, it makes it all so much more bizarre to me and weird.
You know that John Cena never got his win back from K-Fed?
Wait, what?
Kevin Federline. Federline?
Oh
K-Fed.
I remember. Oh my God.
It was Britney Spears' husband.
Oh, I forgot all about that. Oh my God.
They had Kevin Federline beat John Cena on Monday Night Raw, and Cena was the champion or something.
It's crazy. I remember that too.
Was it Umaga that interfered? Was like that how he beat him? Or something?
Some shit like that. Yeah.
But technically, Federline beat Cena, so you're like, okay, at some point, Cena's gonna fuck this kid up and beat him, and he never did. So for this thing, man. They mentioned when Damian Priest came to the ring tonight, Michael Cole was quick to chirp in with, well, Damian Priest had one of the best Backlash main events 2 years ago when he fought Bad Bunny.
Right.
I'm like, okay, why are you bringing that up? And I guess that would kind of lead into what you just said. If he's mentioning Bad Bunny tonight, and I didn't like. I mean, that's another thing why I don't like Damian Priest or his character. I would say I don't know the guy in real life, but for him to agree to lose to Bad Bunny, and I get it. It was Puerto Rico, and everyone was going nuts. But I don't like when the celebrities win for no good reason, and I just there you go. So I don't know. Scorpion AJ saying Gonzo AEW Fight Forever game was so bad, no match.
I heard that.
I didn't buy it. I remember at one point, like in the PlayStation 1 days, I invested like $5 or whatever into an ECW video game. And it was not playable. Like you could not actually.
I heard that's what this game is like.
Yeah.
Or similar, at least.
The ECW game was good in theory.
Revolution.
Yeah, I just remember like the 8-bit Nintendo game had better play action than that.
Right.
All right, buddy. What's the name of your
All
dog?
right,
there?
bro. Xena.
Xena, thanks for holding your piss. We will see you
Yeah,
guys
right.
next time. And thanks, Gonzo, for joining. It was good talking to you again, buddy.
Thanks, bro. I'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, MikeMessier.com. Thanks, everybody.